All right. It is 7 o'clock, actually 7:01, and it's Monday night live chat with Joe Daddy's Garage, or Barry. um, you know, I have a couple different things to talk about today or tonight, and I'm going to wait for some people to show up. But, I've been doing this several weeks now, actually several months, I believe. And, I started off just doing it on Monday nights at 7. And then I started doing it on Wednesday. I tried it at Wednesday. Hey, Robert, glad you're here. I tried it on Wednesday at 3 p.m. for, people that aren't on our schedule. Basically, people in Europe and that sort of thing. And that has gone pretty well. I seem to get more viewers at this time than I do at that time, but that's okay. It doesn't really matter. Just kind of doing this as a, question and answer, something to do. Give us something to talk about, and hopefully share some information between not only me, but those of us that are doing these projects and working on stuff. And all right, we got Harvey here. I see he's changed his name to Harvey Rally Cat Garage. So Harvey was the latest in the viewers projects video. So if you haven't seen that, go check out his 68 or 68s Mustangs that he has, and he's done a good job with those. I'm really impressed by the work he's done. I know he has a good background in auto body, so that helps a lot as well. But really nice to see his cars and what he's done to them, and of course his projections as to what he's going to do to them down the road. Hey, Jack. So, and if you haven't noticed, when I first saw Harvey's video, I talked to him about this actually, because when he showed me his video, it says Rally Cat. Hey, Jeff. No name change here. It's Jeff. Okay. Hey, Ron. We'll get to that in a second. But when I was talking to Harvey, hey, Scott. Glad you're here. I was looking at his logo he had there. It says Rally Cat Garage, but when he filmed it, it was inverted, and I couldn't read it correctly. I thought it said Rally Car Garage, and I thought that's kind of odd. Hey, Dale, I thought that's kind of odd, that it would say Rally Car Garage, and then I had to look at it several times and realized that it said Rally Cat. So I'm sure there's a story behind it, but you can see it's a neat little logo that he has set up. And anyway, so I in editing, I flipped it over because it filmed backwards, and then I flipped it around so that you could read it. So it worked out pretty well. I got to have some coffee. Tonight I have a different coffee cup. Hey, Joseph. Timothy, glad you're here. I'm using my Evercoat Rage Optics cup that I was sent a while ago. Hey, Gary. This is the one that magically changes color when it has a hot liquid in it. So as time goes on, it'll cool off. So Ron has already posed a question, and I can tell you the answer to this. I have not. That's something I've seen done, and it's optional if you want to do it or not. I can't say necessarily that I'm a fan of it just because I like the way the cars are originally, but I can also see why you'd want to remove them. Cars have a smoother appearance without the rain gutters on them, but I have not done it. However, I've seen others that have done it where they've just basically, hey, Nick, glad you're here, where they've cut it off and then welded the edge where the piece was. On the Mustangs, depending on 67 is probably different, but the 65 and 6 models, the roof panel actually sandwiched over the drip rail metal. If you look back, I did a video on it years ago on a 65 that I did, the light blue Mustang, where I had to trim off the gutter and weld in a new section from another car. But the later models, the 67, 8, and whatever, they have a removable piece that you can take off. So I don't know if the 67 Cougar is the same way, but you may look at that, as far as being able to make that happen. So, but I have not done it, at least not intentionally. It's optional. So let's see. Joseph Dillman's here. Okay. Scott saying that He found a 2002 GMC 3500 dually. That would be nice. If I had found that, I'd probably reconsider building my Franken truck onto that chassis, just because I wouldn't mind it being a dually, but you know, my options were limited when I started making that truck. So Harvey says that Jared's girlfriend made my sign. She's very talented. Yep. Whoops, hold on. I'll give you a bell for that. It's a cool sign. I like it. And so, like I said, I know it's got like a 32 Roadster or something on it, I think. Speculating, but anyway, it's pretty cool. Let's see. Joseph, I had a very hard time fitting my trunk today. Now, without knowing the parameters of what you're implying, I guess you're talking about the deck lid not lining up or fitting. And that can be a challenge. I will say that, because there's a lot of issues with the deck lids, and there's a lot of adjustments. You know, you can adjust the mounts up and down, twisting of the deck lid. There's all kinds of things you can do. So let's see. He says it was high on one side. Do you usually put the weather stripping on before you do body work? Let me tell you, there's been some talking points about that. You know, putting the weather strip on, and I normally don't. I just kind of work it to get it to match the car, and then I'll worry about the weather strips later. Now, with that said, I know that the manufacturers of the weather strips, the regular, if you order just a regular weather strip, it's going to make the whole deck lid sit up. I know that for a fact. It's just too thick, and it makes it an issue. Now, some people have trimmed those things down, but I think somebody had posted, if I remember correctly, that they took, I think they said they used fastback weather stripping. Somebody had commented about that. They had ordered 2 kits for the fastback weather stripping because for some reason it's thinner. And they used, you know, part of one strip and part of the other strip to make it a complete seal. I don't know if that, I can only assume that's true. I have not dealt with it specifically that way, but I know that the weather strip you buy is going to make it all sit up high. There you go. I made a little rhyme. Weather, yeah, okay. Roberts is a factory lid, and it is higher in the middle than the edges. Yeah, you know, and I'm not going to tell you to take a block of wood and give it a whack, but sometimes you have to do something along those lines. RMD, that's a complicated situation. Weather strip too hard makes, yeah. You know, which manufacturer? I don't know for sure. I know that there's Scott Drake is one company. There's what is it? Steel. I think I have a sticker up here. Somebody. What is it called? Yeah. Steel Rubber Products is one company that I've used. I forget what I used it on, but I do have a logo from them. But I can't say specifically use this brand. Now, the Joseph, what I'm implying, no, they don't cut that seal in half. From what I understand and what I've been told, the weather strip you buy for the coupes, let's say it's, you know, this thick, and the weather strip you buy for the fastbacks apparently is this thick. So by buying 2 of those, they are taking, you know, because it's not long enough. Basically, the coupe deck lid, let's just say it has a perimeter of 7 feet. I don't know what the number is, 8 feet. Let's say it's a perimeter of 8 feet. And the fastback, the deck lid is shorter. So let's say it has a perimeter of 6 feet. So if you buy one seal for a fastback, the seal will be too short. So that's why you got to buy 2 seals and connect them end to end to make a complete seal. Hope that makes sense. But that's something I'm going to look into later. As far as doing other cars here, is trying to buy the fastback seals and working with those. Yeah, Robert. You know, sometimes, yeah, I've been aggressive with deck lids. I know on a light blue Mustang, I was really aggressive. I had to put blocks under one side and push it hard going the other direction, because I think that was the original deck lid, and it wouldn't, they don't twist like the aftermarket ones. You can twist them around and do whatever you want with them. But the original ones are very stiff. So you got to get kind of crazy with how you adjust things. But anyway, so hopefully that helps with the question. And that's a good question. So Joseph, I'll give you a bell. That was a very good question. And if anybody else has insight on that seal situation, by all means, leave a comment, because that's something everybody needs to know. Mason, do you own any classic pickup trucks? If so, what have you got for a classic truck? Also, do you still own Frankenstein? Franken. It's Franken truck. The only truck I have is Franken truck. I do have a Suburban. I have an 08 Suburban that I use. If I'm going to make a serious road trip and I want to haul stuff, I'll take the Suburban. But yeah, Franken truck, it's the only classic or truck that I have, period. And basically, if you were to, I have videos on the exhaust on that truck. If you went back and looked at some of the videos in the series, the exhaust is pretty much stock back to the catalytic converters. And then I put turnaround mufflers. I believe they're stainless steel MagnaFlow. And they're mufflers that would normally be used on later model Mustangs because they didn't have space to route the ductwork or the pipes. And they call them turnaround mufflers. So it comes in and does a U-turn and comes right back out basically next to the port. I did that for a reason on that truck because I wanted the exhaust to go up the stacks. Well, I didn't want to have straight pipes. So I brought them into the mufflers, did the U-turn, came forward, put in flex joints. I had my muffler guy put in flex joints, and then went straight into my pipes that I made because I made the exhaust pipes or the stacks for those. So, and the engine is a six liter, so gas engine, and it's a fun truck. And one of these days, I may have to just take it out of service completely and redo everything, just paint and everything. Maybe. No commitment. I've got other things to do. I've got many other things to do. So that's a good question, Mason. Give you a bell for asking that. Let's see. Mac Franks. I sat under my 65 fastback with the gas tank out and the trunk latch at the right height and had to bend the lip on the upper or on the fastback to fill up the gap. I didn't have to use two other strip kits. Yeah, and Mac, what I was referring to is the 65 fastback, the seal is thinner. And I discussed it earlier, the length of the deck lid, if you go by all the way around a coupe deck lid, is longer than a fastback deck lid because it's shorter. That's why I was saying use two weather strips. I'm not talking about stacking them up. I'm talking about cutting it and using them end to end so that you can make up for the distance on a coupe. So hope that makes sense. Gustavo, do you seam seal on all your welds or something else? It depends where they're at. Generally what I do once I do my welding and smooth out the welds, I'll coat it with either, depending on location, I may use self-etching primer or I may use epoxy primer, but I put something on, and at certain locations, I'm not going to put anything. It just doesn't need it. But any kind of gaps and stuff like that, I will use brushable seam sealer from Evercoat and, fill in the gaps, but I don't cover, necessarily all the welds. Like I said, just certain areas where it may need it for protection from moisture and stuff like that. I may put on some sort of a coating. So I hope that answers the question there. Let's see. No wishes for first gen Camaro. I'm not sure what you're implying. You're talking about my 68, the rollover car. One day I want to get to that too. Yeah, I've got plenty of stuff to do. Oh, okay. Hey Heath. Good. I was happy to answer your question. and I hope that works out for you. Asking the questions, posting pictures, that all helps, and made it easier to respond. So I hope you have good luck with that and getting that welded together. Yeah, that's up to you, Scott. Stacks, I don't like, if you're talking about putting them through the bed, I don't like stacks through the bed. I think it looks silly. Just my opinion. Puts holes in your bed for no reason, and I'm really a fan of that. So just my opinion. Some people like it. Let's see. Mac is saying, doesn't depend on the weld. If I butt weld or a lap weld, I always seem to show lap welds and use a specific filler and skim coat butt weld. So that's what Mac does for his welds. And again, it depends on the location, because if I'm welding something inside the car, like let's say I'm putting floor pans in and I'm welding the top of the welds on where the floor support and the floor come together. I'm not going to put anything on that. I mean, I'll prime it, top coat it, but I'm not going to add other stuff to it. It's just not necessary. But any part that's going to be exposed, I want to do something to address that. So it may be seam sealer, after primers, of course. I always want to make sure that's taken care of. Let's see, Gary, for somebody else working on front frame rails, what was Heath's question? Well, Heath sent me some pictures, and basically he's replacing the outer half of his passenger side frame rail. And his question was about where he could weld that, because looking at it where it had to rust, and he's trying to keep the inner section because it looks like it's solid. So by replacing the outer portion, he was asking where he could weld it, whether he needed the weld from the up through the bottom of the inner portion, or if he could weld down through where the new piece could, drill holes in the new piece and weld down through. And I suggested he weld down through, and also to stagger the welds so that he's not on top of where the old welds were. Because once he gets all that removed and grinds everything smooth, he may end up with some thinner material where the original spot welds were. And so I suggested that he go between the spot welds and weld that in and, make it solid that way. So that's what he was asking about. So I'm not sure if that will help very many people, but I know for what he was asking, it seemed to help his question. Joseph, it's higher about 1/8 of an inch higher on one side than the other. You think I can tweak the deck lid some? I installed the trunk springs. Okay. Well, yes. I mean, without seeing it and being able to put hands on it, as I normally say, I've been able to take a deck lid and give it some torque and get it to change shape. And 1/8 of an inch, that's not much. But without actually being there and having hands on it, I can't give you a direct answer, but you may be able to get some out of it that way. Mason, so what's your Franken truck based off of? I was wondering also, is it stick shift or automatic? Well, see, the Franken truck started off as a 68 GMC that was actually a 1-ton truck that somebody had converted it down to a short bed with basically 3/4 ton suspension underneath it, because they did away with the dually rear end and put a single axle or single wheel rear end underneath the back. And it was just terrible to drive. Short bed with 3/4 ton suspension is just pointless. Plus, they also butchered the frame. They cut it off square rather than notch it and make it the correct way. So the truck itself is sitting on a 2006 2500 HD Chevy frame that I shortened 27 inches. And then built my own mounts and all that stuff, and shortened all the brake lines or shortened the fuel lines. I didn't shorten the brake lines. I made a loop out of the brake lines. And basically it's a 2006 truck with a 68 cab on it is what it comes down to. So, but it's a cool truck. I like it. All right. Scott's leaving us for a little bit. Okay. Got 36 people watching. That's good. We're only 20 minutes in. Now, Okay, let's see. Arthur done it before, and the guy I sold it to drives it every day. I'm not sure what that's referring to, Arthur. But are you talking about the frame? I hope you're not talking about cutting off a square frame. Not a square cut. It needs to be Z'd or notched to be safe. You want to spread the load over the center line rather than have a square, unless you put a heavy duty plate on the inside or outside to stiffen it up. This thing I had was just straight cut, welded together. Not a good idea. I was watching. Oh, here we go. That's a new name. Emil. I don't know how. Emil. I'm going to say Emil. I don't know. Is it wise to weld floor pans solid to frame? When you say solid, are you talking about the floor supports? Are you talking about a Mustang? There's lots of variables there. You need to let me know what kind of vehicle you're talking about, because the Mustang, you have to weld it to the floor supports. You definitely have to weld it to the floor supports. I don't know if that's a different vehicle or not. So let me know what kind of vehicle you're talking about. Yeah, Joseph, what I'll suggest, go to my video playlist for the light blue Mustang. Watch the videos, because I go into very specific detail, I think, on how I manhandled that deck lid. So if you go back, have a look at those videos, light blue Mustang playlist, and you'll see I had to do, because I had problems with the quarter panel not even fitting right on the car, and I had to modify it and shorten it, and then I had to modify all kinds of stuff. So it's kind of hard to go into a specific explanation right here. But yeah, I mean, I've used blocks of wood and put body weight on and all kinds of stuff. But just go back and watch those. All right, so a mole. A mole? Does that sound better? A mole? Hope that's better. Mach 1, Wisconsin in the house. Glad you're here. Okay, so I'm going to say a mole. I'm hoping that's correct. Yeah, if you're talking like 65 and up Mustang, you need to weld it to the floor supports. It has, I've shown that if you go back to the Mystique Mustang videos, when I first did an overview of that car, somebody had used pop rivets to hold the floor pan onto the floor supports. That's a big no-no. You got to have that welded in. And okay, so it is a mole. Okay, and it's got to be welded. So I don't know, and I mean spot welds per minimum. Yeah, I don't know if you're referring to more than that, but yeah, spot welds. So anyway, Mac. Okay, so you're talking about not a solid weld or seam weld. Those are spot welded. Okay, right. I understand what you're saying, but I think he was asking about welds in general. So it was kind of a open-end question. I didn't really have a base for all that. So Brendan, he's back at work. Bit quiet, but he's good to be back. That's good. Look, it's changing color, cooling down. Let's see. Oh, Brendan says he's taking a 20% cut, so he has Wednesdays off. All right. So Brendan, are you at work now? Because I know you were being able to get on the stream earlier, but if you're at work, it would be more difficult, I assume. Amol, spot weld on top or weld solid underneath? It's spot welds on top. Go back to the Mystique. If you go back to the Mystique playlist, you'll see I show how to put in the 65 floor pan, and I show the welds and all that process. So I would not weld it. You don't need to weld it solid underneath. If you're talking about doing like a lap weld, let's say, where if you have the floor support and then you have the floor pan sitting on top, you don't need to weld all that. You can if you want. I mean, it's going to help make it stronger, but you really don't need to weld all that. If you just weld from the top and get all the spot welds back in place, you'll be fine. Yeah, Mac, where's that welds? Yep. Let's see. Oh, Leonard's here. Thank you. Hey, Leonard, I got your shipment, by the way, and I thank you very much for that. That's awesome. That's really awesome. I'll give you 2 bells for that shipment. That's fantastic. I very much appreciate that. Okay, so Brendan's at work now. So he's still able to watch, doing his thing. Yeah, you're right, Mac. Probably work the pans if you want to seam weld those. Yeah, and you don't need to. You know, just get the spot welds in to the floor supports, and it'll be fantastic. Just like they did at the factory. And Robert even agrees. Any more than plug welds is overkill. You're right. You know, I've had people ask me a lot of different questions about certain welding things. One of them was asking about rocker panels and actually welding the edge of the rocker panels, trying to get it stiffer. I don't know that it would really gain much, you know, by doing such things. It's just, you know, I don't see where it would make the rocker panels any stiffer by seam welding them. Once you have all the factory or the spot welds in place, if you gain anything, it'd be very minimal. So I can't see it's worth the effort. But I had somebody ask me about that a while ago. And yeah, Leonard, they'll be put to use one way or another. Okay, so Brendan is doing his thing. I think he worked. I think he was the DMV. I think is where you're at, the inspection place. So he's waiting for a car to show up, so he has something to do. Yeah, Robert. Yeah, if you want to add some stiffness, add some, you know, floor, some frame stiffeners between the floor supports in the front, back to the torque boxes. Yeah, that would help make things, you know, stiffen up the car. Let's see, Mach 1. Replacing the entire floor as well as full front frame and skirts. Dining car one piece. I started with the full trunk floor and rear frame rails. Should I do the full floors or replace the firewall? Let's see. Here's the only situation you're going to run into by doing things maybe out of sequence. The floor, the floor pan sit on top. Let's see. Okay, yeah, or do the one piece. Okay, the floor pan, it sits on top of the flange. When the firewall comes down and turns aft, the floor pan sits on top. And I ran into this when I did the light blue Mustang, which I remedied it somewhat. But the point being, the floor pan sits on top of the bottom of the flange of the firewall. The reason for that is water. If you do it the opposite way, it creates a place for water to get in between the two. But if you have the firewall underneath the floor pan, now water would trail off and go, you know, you seam seal it anyway. But that's the only variable that you really run into with doing it out of order. Because once you put the floor pan in, you'd have a hard time. I know I had a hard time fitting the firewall in and getting it underneath that pan, because the car I was doing still had the frame rails in place. And I could not rotate the firewall underneath. You know, that one really got complicated on that light blue Mustang. And I guess because of the way I had to build that car, I was kind of stuck. I could not cut apart the firewall and piece the firewall in, because I did that one piece floor in that car. So it was kind of a challenging situation. If it didn't have the frame rails in it, it would have been fine. I could have put the firewall in afterwards, and then if I was putting new frame rails, they could come in after that. But I didn't, and so that's why I rented that situation. But yeah, do the firewall first. Yep. Yeah, Yeah, Robert, it would be a lot of beatings to rotate the firewalls between floor supports and the front frame rails. Yeah, I definitely, I ran into that situation, and I defaulted to putting it on top. I put the firewall on top of the floor pan, and then I, primed it, seam sealed it, coated it, all that stuff. It's going to be fine because I know that car will never be out in the weather. I know that for a fact. In fact, that car's still not done. So if Kevin is watching, you're way behind on this, mister. That was Kevin's car, and it's still not done. In fact, the Mystique Mustang isn't done either, and it belonged to Steve. He's been working on it. I know he's had some health issues and different things going on in his life that delayed him and caused problems. In fact, he contacted me because one of the plans I had was when his car was finished, I was going to go for a ride in it. Go to his place. He lives south of me a few hours, and I was going to do a video and go for a ride in the car and have some fun. And he actually moved. He had an opportunity to move. I don't know if it's South or North Carolina. So I may still go see him when he finishes the car. But that car, he was getting stuff done to it, but it was still taking a lot of time for him. And I hope he's doing much better now. But anyway, so that's just, those two cars are not done. Yeah. Well, it depends on the panel. Certain panels, they fit fantastic. Certain panels, most panels don't. And I think, if you watch my videos, you already know that. But they're not meant to be cut up and modified. They're supposed to be one-shot deals. They're supposed to be. You buy it, you put it on, weld it in, and you go, look, it's done. Just like on TV. But that's never the case. Did you ever work with side exhaust kit, Illinois fiberglass side skirts? No. Have not, and probably won't. Just not one of my things. I mean, I've worked with fiberglass, but not with the Eleanor stuff. Yeah, firewall sits under the floor pan, or the floor pan sits on top of the firewall. So it's just really about water coming down the firewall or splashing up and catching that edge and working its way between the panels. So BK, in most cases, there's way more of a chance for stuff to distort if you start completely welding seams or only spot welds were originally. Yes, I agree, and some people want to get carried away with the idea of welding and trying to make things thicker, stronger, whatever. I can't say that these Mustangs were the strongest of cars. We know that for a fact. But adding more weld isn't adding more strength necessarily. You got to add more stiffness, more material to make it stiff. So that's where that comes into play. Yeah, Leonard. And the thing is, the light blue Mustang, he's my cousin. I'll call him out. I'm sure he's not watching this, so I'm going to call him out though, because he's supposed to get that done and take my mom for a ride in it. That's what he said. I know he put the engine in it. I posted pictures on my Joe Daddy's Facebook page. He does have the engine and transmission in it now, but I don't know if he's done much else. And if he's watching this, Kevin, you need to get to work on his car. Now, Steve, I understand. He's, like I said, he's had health issues and other things going on in his life, and that stuff will slow you down. So I have no issue with Steve. But anyway, let's see. Gustavo, 64.5 Mustang Coupe doesn't have a torque box on both sides. Is that the way these cars are built with a 260? The 64.5 didn't have torque boxes, period. I don't think, I don't know, I can't remember the exact, I don't think 65 did either. I know like 67, it was on one side, 66, I can't say for sure. Like the Brooklyn Pony is a 66. Now it's convertible. So it had torque boxes on both sides. A 64.5, there's no way it would have torque boxes, from my understanding. And people want to add. You can add them, obviously, but they didn't have them. And I don't know what year specifically that they were on both sides. I know 60, if I remember correctly, 67 had them on like the passenger side. For some reason, you can get them on one side. So anyway, let's see. When I replaced trunk floors, drop-offs, and taillight panel on mine, I cut it all loose from the rear frame rails. As soon as the frame rails came loose, the left side dropped 1/4 inch. Yep. It's tough. I mean, it's nice to figure out a way to make, kind of some jigging for that to hold things in place. And you don't expect those things to happen, but it does. It was only the last part past the hump in the back. Yeah, that's odd. It's odd that it would do that. Okay. Yeah, it makes sense. It may have been hit. It may have had a rear end bump at some point and put a spring load on that frame rail. And whenever everything else has come off of it, it just, just tweaked. It's hard to say. Yeah. So Mach 1 says 68 was the first year for having torque boxes on both sides. But if I remember, I know 67, I'm pretty sure it was on the passenger side for certain ones or something. It's really one of those odd things where they were like experimenting and decided, hey, this will work. Well, Mac, it's probably not going to hurt anything, because if you get it back to square and welded back together and everything else is welded in place, it's going to be just as solid. The alternative would be to take the whole frame rail out, I guess, or section in a piece. Speaking of which, I don't know if any of you had seen this. I had posted a car a couple weeks ago on my Facebook page, and it was a 60. I want to say it was a 66 that was for sale. Whew, scary. Guy wanted $6,000 for the car. And hey, John, glad you're here. The guy wanted $6,000 for the car, and it had holes through the floor, front frame rails underneath. It was a 6-cylinder car to start with, but it had a V8 in it, so it still had the 4-lug wheels under it, all that stuff. Had big rusted holes in the bottom of the frame rail in the front, and then in the back, I was dumbfounded when I saw this. I wish I could pull that picture up, but it was the rear frame rail must have rotted off, and rather than replace the frame rail or I don't know what they ended up doing, they got a new piece, a new patch. They shoved it into the box that was left of the rusted off end, shoved it into that, and then put screws through it. Okay, had like 3 sheet metal screws holding that piece in. And then they had 6 bolts, like 3/16 bolts, bolting the floor pan to the frame rail. And they were trying to sell this car for $6,000. I could not believe it. I was like, what? I mean, and like I said, it looked like it had a pretty paint job on it. So they were like, trying to pass it off as being a pretty nice car. But man, I could not believe that. The rear frame rail was just held in with screws and a couple of bolts. Let's see. Yeah, Mac thinks it was the driver's side torque box in 67. I don't remember for sure. If I had Mustang Connection 1 on here, Rich would tell me automatically. He would know probably the production date when they started doing that. He knows all those numbers. Yeah, let's see. Need a DVD of Mustang Patch Up Horrors. Yeah. If that thing, man, and I think it was deleted. I think somebody deleted it. I don't know if it's still there anymore. I think when I went back and checked that Facebook post, it was gone from my post. But yeah, Robert, it might have been a little bit more than a $600 car. maybe a little, depending on the condition of the doors and the fenders. Like I said, I looked at the front valance, looked like it lined up perfect. The fenders look perfect, but again, who knows what shape they're really in. But if they were, those would make, a great donor car, for that sort of stuff. RMD, poor 68 Camaro is jealous of the Mustangs. 4 years. He lost me. I'm not sure if you're referring to the rollover Camaro, the basket case or not, but yeah. Yep. People have put in license plates before. I've seen all kinds of crazy stuff. I was hearing somebody had commented that they had seen at like a fly-by-night car sale lot where they would take newspaper and soak it in resin, like fiberglass resin, just newspaper, and stick it on a car and let it harden up to kind of give a shape, and then cover it with Bondo. So never thought of that. I could have saved a whole bunch of time if I just used resin-soaked newspaper and covered it in Bondo. That would be so much easier than the stuff that I'm doing. Now, before I get too carried away, I will suggest, if somebody's interested, and it can be anybody, if they want to be on the live stream tonight, that send me an email and I'll get you on here. It's pretty easy. I've had Robert on here last week, last Wednesday. We had Leonard on here. Of course, we'd have Brendan. We've had Harvey. We've had Stein was on here from Norway last week on Wednesday. And so it's kind of nice to have people from other places and projects and stuff like that. So if you're interested, send me an email and I'll send you a link and you can get on here and be part of this conversation directly. So let's see, Robert, the Mustang I mentioned at the house behind me was a 69 coupe. It was not a project I wanted once I saw it. Robert, here's the deal. I've been looking at the possibility of finding a 69 coupe and making it a fastback. I've considered that. Buying the actual kit, like the Dynacorn fastback kit, doing the full conversion. I've considered it, but it would have to be the right car. And I wouldn't feel too bad about cutting up a coupe as long as it was not in great shape, So it's one of those things where it has to be, maybe it was rear-ended or something, and I could justify cutting off the back end of it. I don't know. Yeah, Dale found frame rails covered in Bondo after blasting. Yeah, not surprised. Yeah, we'll give it a minute, Robert. We'll see if anybody else wants to jump on. But I wouldn't mind having you on here. Let's see. Here's a new. That's a new name. I can't. You have to give me a real name. I don't know how to. ZYRIXII. Yeah. I bought a 64 Falcon with the same TCI front suspension. Yeah. Did you? I don't know if maybe it was you. I had somebody comment on one of my videos, or a couple of my videos that I did on that earlier. But yeah. So I don't know if that was you or not. Somebody commented earlier today on my the TCI stuff that I have posted. Yeah, Mac. I don't know how people do multiples of these cars. I've done a lot. When we had the body shop, I was doing everything. I mean, literally between doing collision work, I was also doing restoration work, all kinds of stuff. So at one point at the body shop, while doing full blown collision, because I was I did all the frame pulls and everything like that. But I was building the 65 Galaxy, a 68 Mustang, a 55 Chevy truck, 36 Dodge truck, a Pontiac, what was it, 78 or something, Pontiac Le Mans or something like that. And I mean, just a variety of things. So it's tough. It's really tough to keep track of all the parts and pieces. Yeah, I should, yeah, I don't blame you. Let's see, Brian, could you talk about the body card under the Brooklyn Pony, where you got it, how much, and your impression so far? Well, Brian, that was a Summit Racing product. And actually, I have a video on that. It's in the series with the Brooklyn Pony. And, it's disassembled. It's in the back, sitting out of the way, which is what I like about it, is I can take it apart, put it away. But I like it. It's done what I needed it to do, which was give me a base that I could roll around the body and do different things. I think, if I remember correctly, it was around $400, at that time. I don't know if it's changed at all, but I don't know the part number specifically. But if you go back and look at, I think if you did a search on my channel for Summit Racing body card or Summit Racing tool, something, there's, I do a video of the assembly of it, and I talk about the function of it and stuff like that. So, but I like it. I'm very, very happy with it. Oh, a 4-link kit for the Falcons now. Yeah, that's cool. Let's see, Dave. Can I ask a Model A question? Sure. I put a new door skin on, just under the belt line. What do I want to use to crimp the panel around the frame, hammer and dolly, or a special tool? Actually, if you're doing it like a standard rolled flange, I bought a kit from Harbor Freight that is a hammer and dolly kit. Let me show you that. Hold on a second. Talk amongst yourselves. I don't know if you can hear, there's an airplane flying over right now. Prop plane. But they sell this kit, and this kit comes with this hammer. This hammer is built just for doing door skins, and basically a block, any kind of block. But the idea is that you can take this hammer, because it's got such a narrow head on it, that lets you get in and roll that flange over without, damaging other things. And then this other end has a taper to it. So again, you can get into tight spaces and roll that flange over. So that's going to be your easiest approach, in my opinion, is to use a hammer and dolly that's, built for that purpose. But I picked that setup from Harbor Freight, and I've used this for a lot of things. This has been very handy. So hope that answers your question. Let's see. Hey, Nick. Yep. Let's see. Hold on a second. Okay, Nick had a phone call. Well, I'm glad you're back, Nick. Let's see. Good luck for me to be around for. Oh yeah. Well, I'm glad you're here, Wade. Yep. Hope everyone is staying healthy. It's been tough. I mean, it's all this crazy stuff going on with the virus and junk, man. Mac, how do you keep all the projects moving? That's a good question. That's a really good question. Even I get frustrated at times, and it may not be that, I don't get angry or anything. I just get kind of burned out a little bit every once in a while. And sometimes I just have to shift gears. So like I just went to working on the Jade Mustang, the 68, for several reasons. And one of them is to give me a break, from the Brooklyn Pony, because, I did like 5 videos of trying to fit the engine and transmission, and that was frustrating, and rather than stop doing stuff altogether, I'd rather do something else. So like I put the radiator in the 65 Impala, and I'm probably going to do the door seals on that car and a few other things, but I just have to switch around once in a while. And working on Jade has been a great thing for me. In fact, there'll be a video out tomorrow on Jade, so just giving you a heads up on that. But that has been a real energizer for me, because it's one of my cars, and I can make progress on it and feel good about it. And I know that I have to get that car out of the paint booth before I can put Brooklyn Pony in. And while it's there, I need to finish up some things, and part of that is getting it all in epoxy. So that was one of the one of the things I had to do. All right, Brian, let's see. Okay, so he put a 4-link in his 64 Falcon. That's cool. I may have you, just letting y'all know, with all these questions coming through, and I'm not telling you this is something you need to do, but if you want to have a question prioritized, if you want to have something, brought up that's going to be a good question, there's a thing called Super Chat. You may not know about it. I had somebody do it a couple weeks ago, and I didn't even know how it worked really. But you can put a few bucks up or whatever, and do a super chat, and it'll throw your question up there, and it'll hold it on the queue, so we can get the question answered. That's an easy way for somebody to get their question in place, because again, rolling through and trying to keep up can make it a challenge. But anyway, just letting you know. Let's see, where did that go? Okay, so it's pronounced Xyrix. Okay, we'll go with that. Xyrix works. I try to make sure whenever I'm seeing certain names that I can try to use the real name. People like to have different stuff going on, and I try to remember what their what their name is or whatever. Let's see. So we have RMD. Sorry, asking again. The last 6 Camaro video was 4 years ago, or is there more not on your playlist? No, that car. Because I did. Was it 4 years? Was it really 4 years? Was that the black Camaro? Because I know I did. I was working towards getting I have the pieces, all the pieces for the rollover for the basket case, but I did a series of videos on the 68, the black one that I put in. That's when I put quarters on, tail panel, floor pans, firewall, and I put Detroit Speed mini tub kit in that Camaro. And then that car I sold that car. So that's probably the last one for the Camaro series. But yeah, I definitely have all the pieces for the other one, the rollover. But yeah, it's not getting any attention at this point. Yeah, Mac. I'm sure they did. Well, I can't say that for sure. I'll bet you they had a press. It wouldn't make sense that they would do a hammer and dolly on a 65, 6, 7, 8 car. They had to have a press. It wouldn't make sense because it was so simple to build a press where you set the panel in and just, you're done. So just my opinion. Or I couldn't see them doing it hammer and dolly. It would be too many variables that they'd have to deal with, because you want the outer skin to be perfect. And if you mess up a little bit with a dolly and a hammer, you could easily put a ding. So I'm going to have to go with a machine did all the work there. All right, Dave. I'll give you a bell for asking. That's a good question. Let's see, Jack. There you go. So Jack can just run over to Dave's shop and drop it off. There you go. Look at that, Jack. I'll give you a bell for helping out. Yeah. They make us different kits for different, different uses. But let's see. They make a crimping tool for doing that, but hammer and dolly works fine. Yeah, I have not seen the crimping tool for that, Leonard. I wouldn't mind seeing how it works, but I have not seen that. Good evening, Barry. Just got here. License plates are great for patching. Ever watched Vice Grip Garage? Great GM guy and very funny. No, I have not. I have a hard time watching some other channels. It makes it, some of the stuff I see that gets passed along, I'm not a fan of. I talked about it previously. There's some person out there who's butchering up a 65 or 6 coupe, trying to put in a late model engine, and he just cut the whole front of the car off, and it's I don't like it. It's just not my thing. And then the other guy, I looked a little bit at B's for Build, at his videos, and he does some interesting stuff, but it's like it's hard for me to watch and learn a certain or different approach, let's say. Because sometimes, like, I think on his channel they just do like a time lapse where they're going through the process. They might stop and point at certain things or whatever, but it's cool that what he's doing, building that '67 Mustang, but just kind of not my approach on it. Harvey, I do not look at it as a huge job, but many small jobs during restoration keeps you moving. There you go. Yeah, and sometimes that's what you have to do is step away and do little bits here and there, and take a different angle once in a while. It helps to just have a different perspective. Original GM guy, yeah. Let's see. So Mac, I'm pretty much stuck on paint. Can't rent or borrow a booth, and no plan to build one. I live in the Northeast Texas pressure cooker. Oh yeah, that's no fun. Where do we go here? Wade, no idea if this is worth the money, but saw something called a skin zipper on Eastwood's page for door skin installation, air operated, not a lot of money. Huh. Give you a bell for that, Wade. Not heard of that, but sounds interesting. I know Eastwood has some really cool stuff. Okay. Yeah, I sold the black car. Sorry. Still have the rollover car, though. It's sitting outside under tarps. Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry, Mac. I know he did ask about the Model A. You're right. And but it's still possible. It's still very possible they had machines do the work, because I have a Model A, I have my 31 Model A, and I've looked at those door seams. There's no evidence of hammer impacts on that flange at all, and it wouldn't surprise me at all, because the door is not complicated. It has a very subtle curve to it, and I don't know what they used. They could have had some sort of roller. I don't know, but I doubt they used hammer and dolly, because again, you run the risk of putting little dings on the exterior panel. So. But that's a good thought, though. I should research that a little bit on the Model A and see how they do that. Yep, you're welcome, Dave. Here's a good question. Paul, did the frame rails rust from the inside out? I rinsed out the frame rail from the plug holes and tried your trick spraying 415 and blowing all around. Yes, I will say for the most part they will rust from the inside out. The reason for that is they didn't put any kind of treatment inside of the frame rails. When they built these cars in '64 up to whatever, they didn't do anything but put together raw metal and then paint it. And they might put some seam sealer, of course, here and there, but all the inside pieces were just left as raw metal. So if you pull out a floor pan and you look at the floor support or the frame rail, you're not going to see any primer. You're not going to see anything, because they just stacked up metal and welded these things together and left it go, because they did not expect these cars to be around for 50 years. But they definitely will rust from the inside out. So cleaning all that out, spraying in 415 or chassis saber, stuff like that, good plan. That helps a lot. That's a good question, Paul. Give you a bell for that. DW, you going to cruising the coast? Unlikely. I wouldn't mind, but I would like. I mean, there's a lot of things I'd like to do, but I just don't. I don't have a vehicle to take. I guess I have to get something finished, right? But I have friends who do it, and I think it would be great. Are you talking? Which video are you talking about, Robert? That's a good. Where'd it go? I don't know which video you're talking about. Goon Squads. Man, I haven't seen them. Yes, RC Guy Garage. Thank you for the thumbs up. I need to talk about something he's done on his channel, by the way. If you haven't seen RC Guy Garage, go check out his channel. He's been doing live feeds like for the last 16 days, I think 16, 18 days, something like that, where he's just, working on RC cars and, talking about life in general and enjoying his time up in Massachusetts. But he does a lot of cool stuff with RCs. And I had a ball laughing in a video today because he built this. He was doing a burnout with this little RC. It looks like a Volkswagen, and he was trying to do some sort of burnout video, and it didn't go well. It was pretty entertaining, and so we communicated about that. But it was pretty funny. And anyway, so if you're into RC stuff at all, go check out his channel. He's got some cool stuff on there. Let's see, Wade, a lot of those are just like watching a TV show, not actually much for learning. Yeah, you're right. And that's, unfortunately, to me, it's not worth my time to try to make it like a TV show. Because here I am, I'm one person, first of all. So what am I going to do? I can't have a conversation with myself. I can't say, oh, what are you going to do next? And then go over there to the other side. I'm going to put this on. Oh, how are you going to do that? Oh, I'm going to use a welder. You know what I mean? I can't. That would be entertaining, though, I guess. I could do it. I've done some split videos before where I actually had me on both sides, but yeah, I don't know. Most of them aren't built that way. Zipper is awesome, works great. So I'll have to check that out. Let's see, 67 Stang. Thanks for showing my project on your channel the other week. Started working on installing American Auto Wire kit. Very good. That's cool. So that would be Trip, I believe. Should be Trip. So pretty cool project. Nice story behind it. Mac Franks. Yes, I have a Model A. Yeah, I actually have videos of it on the channel. So if you haven't checked those out, go check out those. The story is my grandfather bought this 1931 Model A sedan that he bought it in 58, I believe it was, 1958. My dad was 16 at the time. And they towed it home, got it running, and my dad actually drove the car when he was in high school. He drove that car to high school, and he ended up. My mom and dad went on their first date in the car, and so it's been in my family history for quite some time and has some great, sentimental value. So in 2006, I got the car from my dad. And I started, I think it was 2006. I think it was January of 2006. I started working on it. So maybe, anyway, 2006, 2007, I started working on it. And I rebuilt the whole car. Took it completely apart. And I have videos on the channel. I have two videos of, one is a tear down and starting to build it back. And then the other one is putting it back together, first drive in the car. And basically, I rebuilt the whole car and painted it. And took it back to Pennsylvania, where I'm from originally, and put my grandparents in the car for a Founders Day parade. So put them in the car. My dad drove the car in the parade. And so that was the whole reason I built the car, was for my grandfather. And anyway, so I have the car. I drive it occasionally down here. And, it's a great car. So if you haven't seen those videos, go check them out. I think I have another video just talking about the car in general, but I know there's at least 3 videos on the Model A. So yeah, go check those out. He's mostly for last. If you laugh, you get a good old GM schoolfellow. Okay. Robert, there's a roller for the edges that I've seen in some of the old ASSM videos. Okay. Well, I'm going to say it wasn't a hammer and dolly. It wouldn't make sense that they would use a hammer and dolly in a factory construction. It's just too much risk of damage. You'd have to have the super sharp guy doing it. But Gary, I was thinking about going with American Auto Wire, but might save a bunch of money to go with Quick Wire or Ron Francis. Well, I'm not familiar with those. So I know I'm familiar with American Auto Wire, but if those other ones work too, great, use them. I don't have an opinion on those. So my coffee's getting cold. Look, my cup has changed color now. Okay, so Joseph watched the video. Yeah, see, and maybe hopefully that helps. Hopefully that helps. Give me just a second here. I gotta. Okay, I'm getting some other emails, but yeah, Joseph. Hopefully that has, or will give you some insight to help you with the situation with your deck lid. And give me just a second. Where are we at? Oh yeah. Okay. Thank you, Bob. 2 thumbs up. Awesome. Mac, I'd use a 2x4 to tweak my new aftermarket. Didn't fit trunk lid. Yeah. Well, and the nice part about those, the aftermarket ones, is they're not welded. They're not solid. You can sit there and twist them around, just like I did the hood on the Brooklyn Pony. You can twist that thing any shape you want. You know, you could have it totally distorted and weld it back together and live with it. But let's see, Robert, even cars today still have bare steel for the seat frames and seat bases. That's true. That is true. You know, but the rest of the car gets dipped. You know, they build the unibody and they dip the whole car, and everything is coated inside and out, which is, you know, fantastic. All right, hold on a second. Let's see. Oh, let's see. BK, you must be glad to be out of the collision shop. They're hurting because no one is driving, no accident work. You know, I'm very relieved that I left that shop for multiple reasons. Got out of it. But yeah, I'm much happier to be doing, sorry, my nose is itchy. Much happier to be doing stuff at home where the only overhead is me. And the only person I answer to is me. And the only person I have to question is me. You know, much better. Okay. So Trip likes the 67, the American Auto Wire kit. Yeah, they're nice. The chopped up 66. Okay. I don't know if you're talking about the one I cut up with the plasma cutter or not. RC airplane videos, yeah, those are pretty cool. Yeah, pretty amazing. Yeah, Dave, check out the zipper. Let me know what you find on that, if you would. You know, if you order one or whatever, please, by all means. Oil Fixer 71. I put the American Auto Wire kit in my 66 and love it. Opens the door for some other options mods too. That is very true. Because the American Auto Wire kit has multiple fuses. And you can put in power windows, power locks. There's a variety of things you can add into the system because it's already built into the fuse box. So just keep that in mind as well. Yeah, Mac, I understand. Carpal tunnel. Had it in both hands. I have the scars. Cut them both. Best thing I ever did. Ever. I'm telling you right now. If they ever start going bad on me again, I'm going to tell them to go start cutting. Just cut them. Be done with it. I dealt with it for so many years. Wore braces, different therapies, anti-inflammatories. Tried not using my hands. And best thing I ever did, I'm telling you. Cut me open. I was cured. Let's see. There you go. So BK just ordered American Auto Wire kit for a 66 Cyclone project. That's cool. Wow. Okay. I'll give you a bell for that. Mac, where do you find parts for an A? Well, there's a variety of places. The one I used it's called Mike's Affordable. That's like Mike's and then A-Affordable or something like that is one place. That's the only one I used because they were actually in Georgia and they had every part that I needed. But there are multiple places out there. You can buy just about anything for a Model A, believe it or not. They're readily available. Yes, Joseph. My dad drove a Model A to high school. Now, it's not a matter of how old I am or how old he was. He was born in 42. He just loved the old cars, you know. And that's where I get my love for old cars is through him because he had a junkyard. So, you know, I grew up with all the old cars, and that's my passion, I guess. But yeah, he loved the Model A's, so he drove one in high school. Yep. Hey, Jared's here. Great. Glad to have Jared in the house. That's Harvey's son. Oh, we got 3X Xena. That's Gene, if I remember correctly. So glad he's here. Yep, lots of Model A parts out there. And, you know, you can go to Mike's Affordable, and they've got a catalog. Well, I probably have an old catalog here somewhere. I don't see it offhand, but I mean, I've had multiple catalogs from Mike's. And, yeah, they definitely have all the parts you could think of. Where'd I go? Hold on a second. I'm losing people. Yeah, Dave, lots of Model A parts out there, and I don't miss the Hershey meet ever. Okay, so Hershey, Pennsylvania must have a big Model A or at least a swap meet up there that you can go to. Yep, still here, Scott. Let's see. Only use the board on the deck lid if you're sure that the body is straight and level. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, thank you, Scott. Appreciate that. I know that your thoughts are. Wait a minute. I have to read that a couple times. When it comes to e-coat removal from panels for epoxy paint, how do you feel about the weld through silver coating on Dynacorn panels? You know, that's a good question. And as it stands, I'm not taking that stuff off. I don't see any value in removing it. Now, what I will do is I will, like the bottom, any part that's exposed on the Brooklyn Pony, I'll sand all that stuff, you know, get it to a point where it'll take more material. I may go ahead and spray epoxy on top of that just because, and then top coat it later with either high build primer or whatever, but I'm not going to sand off all that stuff. I've heard people say, you know, knock it all off, but I don't see the benefit of it, especially in the context of how the car is going to be used later on, because these cars, when they were new, they were daily drivers. So people went out and drove them in any kind of weather, put snow chains on them, winter, summer. They were cars to be used. But anymore, when do we really drive these cars? On the weekends, car show. There are a few people who will drive them. You know, I know that Harvey's son drives his, you know, but for the most part, these cars are not going to see the same kind of weather conditions that they saw throughout their lives. So I'm not going to remove that stuff. I'll just top coat it, build on top of it, and it'll be fine. It's not going anywhere, and it's not going to hurt anything, at least not in my opinion. But some other people may think differently, but that's how I'm doing it. Now, I will say that I'm doing I have a video loaded for tomorrow. It'll be out tomorrow. And it's me stripping down the 68 Mustang. And I actually talk about the E-coat and the epoxy that I have on that car. So that video will come out, and I stripped, sorry, Mac, didn't really want that one. I stripped off all the E-coat on the quarter panels, and I didn't need to. I wanted to. And there's reasons why I did that. But anyway, that stuff is pretty tough. And I'll say it didn't need to come off. I'll just say that, but I did it anyway. GM guy, I have 3 Nitro ATX trucks, 1 electric, 17-inch. Oh, wow. Well, then you need to go to check out RC Guy Garage. Go check out his channel. He's got some cool stuff on it. He has a lot of cool RC stuff on there. So, Mac, listen to me. Mark my words. If you still have function in your hands at all, and they go numb, mine were so bad that I could tie one shoe, and both of my hands would be numb before I finished tying my shoe. That is how severe my carpal tunnel was. I couldn't hardly eat, without, I mean, it was just terrible. And the surgery is not complicated. In fact, they did my left hand. I was awake for the surgery. Now, not to brag or anything. I'm just saying they did a numbness, numbed it up, whatever, and they cut me. And believe it or not, even though they told me to go home and rest, I didn't. I went straight to the body shop and I took apart a Jeep. Now, basically, I used my right hand for most of it, but I was amazed, totally amazed when the numbness wore off here. I could feel everything. My hand was like brand new. I'm telling you, if you're doubting or debating, go get it cut. My dad had severe carpal tunnel, and he waited. I got mine cut. I was 40 years old, so 12 years ago, I had mine cut. I have not had any issues at all. Best thing, I'm telling you, best thing I ever did as far as, maintenance surgery like that. My dad waited till he was like 70. It didn't help. The nerve was already damaged beyond repair. Didn't do him any good. So don't wait. Trust me. Let's see. Gotta back off a little bit. Gary, does the American Auto Work kit come with grommets for the firewall and other places? That's a good question. Maybe Tripp can answer that. I don't remember seeing grommets. I don't remember any of that, but I could be wrong. Last kit I did was for the 55 Chevy, and it may have had them, but I can't say for sure. Yes, Dave. Mike's affordable, and you can actually talk to Mike. Mike is, I believe, Australian. So if there's times I've called and it's him. It's actually Mike on the phone. Great guy. Great advice. Yeah, Donald. Yep, I had to have both hands done. I'm telling you, if I have any issues, I'll get it done again. I don't care. Give you a belt for that one. Let's see. Yeah, the Model A's were built from 28 to 31. 28, 29, 30, 31. And the 28 and 29 share almost the same exact body, and then 30 and 31 share almost the exact same body. Now, there was different ones. There was a Briggs body, and there was a Murray body, and they varied. I think it was like the window openings. I think mine's a Briggs. I think the Briggs has a square on the top where the window goes up. It's square, and I think the Murray is curved. So that's a variation in the bodies. And then, of course, they had them where they had a, sedan, two-door, four-door, which if you look up the name on a two-door, which is mine is a two-door sedan, but if you look up the name, it's like TUDOR. Two-door is how they come up with it. And then a four-door is FORDOR. Four-door. Anyway, but they have variations. You've got the roadsters and the two-door and the four-door and of course, the coupes and all those variations. But yeah, 28 to 31 is the year they built those Model A's. And as with anything, whenever I start getting on something, I tend to learn as much as I can about it. And I learned a ton of stuff building that Model A, and it was very, very good information that I was able to gain by doing that. And it makes you appreciate what they did when they built those cars, because even like the floors are all wood. It's got a frame, metal steel frame in there, but the floor panels themselves are plywood. Okay, so Dave, Eastwood zipper looks interesting. $36. I may have to look into that. Thank you for looking that up, Dave. Joseph, I was thinking of doing the American Auto Wire for 67. Somebody, as I watched, said people didn't like the placement of fuse box. That's interesting, because I don't know specifically for the Mustang. I don't know. But I know for the other cars that I've done, the 55 Chevy and the Camaro that I did, the fuse box was bolted in the exact same place as the original. So I don't know what the debate is. If the 67 is a different configuration, maybe Tripp has an answer for that since he's putting one in. But my understanding is they built it to where it fits in the exact same spot. So I don't know maybe they didn't like it because the original was not in a good place. Maybe that's part of it. Let me see if I can get back to. So Mac, I guess you're saying you've dealt with it for 5 years. Trust me, man. Go get cut. Get it over with. Brian, do you know if single stage enamels are still available if I decide to do a factory paint job off my 69 Fairlane? Yeah, I'm sure they're still available. They've got to be. They use single stage all the time. Like we used to paint, we used some paints at the body shop that were built specifically for semi trucks, and it was a single stage, and it was a tougher paint. It was built, like I said, for the road use for semi trucks. So I'm sure it's still available. BK had both of mine done about 5 years ago. Very great ever since. I'm telling you 100%. Go get it cut. Get it all done. Yes, it's a really complete kit. Okay, so you're talking about the the grommets, I assume. So I'll have to say that. He's saying that it comes with the grommets. I don't know. Oh, we got a new name here. Reed. What are the perfect size wheels for a 66 coupe? That's a good question. Perfect size in what dimension? You know, factory, they would have had a 14-inch wheel on it. It was about this wide. You know, later on, you could get a 15-inch wheel. It was like 7 inches. Variations now, you know, somebody else might be able to give you a better answer for this. I did a wheel fit video on the Brooklyn Pony. In fact, the product I used was wheel fit. I don't remember the specifics on the wheels. I think I ended up with, I think they're 7-inch wide. I want to say they're 17s, but I don't have a good answer to give you because when you say the perfect size wheels, it depends what you're looking at. Some people like 18-inch wheels, some like 15s. You know, so that's a debatable question. I don't have an answer. Maybe somebody else has some input. Yes, I did, John. I did see that email, and those were pretty sharp. Did a good job on those. So yeah, I did see those. Leonard, I know I've asked this before. Which primer would you recommend, epoxy or urethane, before putting on filler? Well, again, it depends on what you're doing. But if you're let's say you start off, you go to bare metal, you sanded everything down, and you're at bare metal. Hold on just a second. But if you go down to bare metal, you need to put on epoxy first, and then you can add fillers. You know, build up from there. Now, I've also put fillers on top of high build. You know, like you're doing some repair work and you've knocked down a high build, you realize, hey, I still have an issue here. I still have a dent. Put filler on top of the high build and work your way out from there. So bare metal, go to epoxy first. I'm going to send an invite to Robert. Since I'm using this company called StreamYard, this is the only option that I have for adding people onto the stream. And apparently there's a limit for monthly usage. So I'm just letting you as viewers know. I like to use the StreamYard and have people jump in and be part of the conversation. And with this program, I'm limited to 20 hours in a monthly time slot. And I got a notification from StreamYard that I have like 7 hours remaining. So I may have to go to my other broadcast product, and with that one, I can't add people in. So I'm going to take advantage of having the time to use while I'm still here, or still have that on the time available. Leonard, I hope that answers your question. We'll see. So Dave is A is the first frame off I'm doing. For education, getting history on the A and learning skills. Yeah. Well, you know, and when I did the videos on my Model A or my grandfather's Model A, I didn't do those necessarily for YouTube. I did those initially for me and my family because I wanted to show myself how to put it back together. So that's why when that was really the first, honestly, I started doing that video. That would be my first how-to video, really, before I did anything else on YouTube, because I was filming that car and I would point at things and say, this, this kingpin or whatever goes here, this brake piece goes here, this goes here. And I did all that for me. So when I was going, I didn't know when I'd be back on it, as far as getting it together. I decided I'll do this so that I can watch myself and tell myself how I took it apart. And so that's what I did. And as time went on, and I did make the video, it was all on digital tape, which was a challenge to get onto the internet. I had to do a conversion setup to get it onto the internet. So that's where I ended up. It took me some time to figure that out. And once I did, then I also put those videos on, and I chopped them up a little bit and got rid of some segments. In fact, the original video has my daughter, Jo, has her riding I think I have her riding a little four-wheeler off in the backyard as part of my video. And so I had to take all that off and edit it down. But anyway, yeah, I learned a lot of stuff on that. And those videos may be helpful if you want to go back and check those out. Let's see. So Trip is saying on a 67, the fuse box goes back where the original is, but it is much bigger. In 65 and 6, there are issues with placement if you have factory EC. So there you go. Trip has given us an answer on the fuse box question on the 67 build. So I'm going to add Robert to the stream. So
how's the picture this time?
Oh, that's much better. You're getting better at this.
I stole her camera.
Okay. Yeah, that's a lot better. That looks better than mine.
Well, I bought it for her for Christmas, so
yeah,
so that's she's good. Not using it, so it's like I'm gonna go steal it.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't hurt, just on parts.
Yeah,
pretty easy to swap.
Yeah.
So let's see. Bob is saying PPG concept or Omni. Is that a question? I don't know if that's a question. I think
he's wanting to know what brand paint do you recommend?
Okay, I think that I remember using Omni. I think that was that maybe that stuff we used at the body shop on the semi truck stuff. I mean, I use PPG paint products. I don't remember if it's Concept is. I don't remember the name, but I use PPG. So, but I don't know which one it was. So I'm thinking Concept sounds familiar to me.
Hey, I've got some old Centauri paint.
Oh wow! Yeah, make sure you breathe that in. Yeah,
I don't know what to do with it. It's just one of those things that's just sitting there. It's like that's like becoming an antique.
Yeah. Okay, so Reed is saying thanks for reply on the 66 Coupe. The original wheels are so narrow and it looks like a boat. Okay, well, it's tough to give you a straight answer, but if you go back and look at those the videos that I did on the Brooklyn Pony when I was testing the wheels, you may get some ideas to what you could fit under there. Because I showed tire sizes and all kinds of stuff I did on that video. That was a struggle. And
there's a pretty good thread on Vintage Mustang of what rims and what sizes and back spacing, and there's a good thread with a lot of good information over there about that.
Okay. And that's on a Mustang forum?
Yeah, on vintage Mustangs.
Okay.
Vintage Mustangs forums. I forget what it is exactly, but there's quite a bit of information on the various years, what fits well.
Okay, let's see. Gary, I'm sure my undercarriage, you picked up epoxy primer and chassis saver. Would you epoxy, then use chassis saver, just go straight to chassis saver? Chassis saver is meant to go to bare metal, from my understanding. And so if you put epoxy on, it's not going to the bare metal. It's not sealing anything. It's also meant to inhibit rust. Just like 415 is meant to inhibit rust. So I think if you put epoxy on, it's either one or the other, really. But I mean, I would probably go into bare metal. If you're going to use a chassis saver, it's tougher than bare epoxy. So I don't know if you're looking at adding other things on top of that later on. So think of it that way. Epoxy has to be top coated with something. So whether it's undercoat, something, you have to put something on top of epoxy. But
my thinking is if it's a perfectly prepped and really well prepped and really well done, I'm going epoxy. If I can't trust it, then I would go with something else other than epoxy.
Yeah.
That just that's just the way I look at it.
Well, and again, it's if there's no rust.
Mm-hmm.
If it's free of rust, that's one thing. If it's all new panels, that's one thing. But it's tough to give you an answer because when you say you're stripping it, are you blasting media blasting it? Are you, is there evidence of rust or anything like that? So, you can go either way, but like Robert's saying, perfectly prepped, spray the epoxy. Otherwise, probably go with chassis saver. Okay, so Bob is saying single stage paints. There you go. So he's actually answering a question that somebody was asking about the enamels earlier. I believe that's what he's saying is the concept or the Omni for single stage enamel. So that's what he's answering. He was answering, not asking. Okay. Robert, like Days of Thunder when they steal the engine.
It's been a long time since I've seen that movie.
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember what he's referring to there, but yeah, don't breathe in that Centauri stuff.
No, and the other thing is be careful with the some of the 3M the cartridges for your masks. There are a lot of counterfeit ones out there that are not real 3M ones, and I got a hold of a pair of them that came from Amazon, and it said sold by 3M. They're not. So you got to be careful. You got to be real careful, because I put them on and I was just mixing some paint up, and all of a sudden it's like, man, I smell it. My eyes were burning because I have a full face shield one, and it was like, okay, these filters are not working at all. And I was doing it for maybe 30 seconds, and it was already up into the mask that bad. So it was like, yeah, let me go get my old ones out.
Well, they have different ones. They've got organic and vapor, and so you got to make sure you get the right one as well.
Yeah, and these are the same ones that I've always used. It's just like or had ordered a set of them and got these. It's like, no, let me get my old ones out. They were working better. I trust them a lot more.
Okay, he's referring to your webcam. Stealing.
Hey, I have gotten a lot of work done this weekend, though. I got a lot done on the 66 behind me. I got a lot of the driver's side is welded in. The panels welded on the driver's side. Started on the passenger side. That fender apron is just fits like garbage. So I had it was a 2-piece one that's already put together. So I took it apart. The back piece fits okay. The front piece, I'll make it fit. It's gonna work. It's gonna work, but it don't fit pretty.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to, is just making it work. Yeah, unfortunately. Max saying they're probably made in China, which I'm sure they were. Yeah. And then Leonard, go ahead.
No, then the other problem is 3M has a lot of their factories in China. So you see made in China, you don't know if it's, and let me tell you, the packaging, it's really good. It's really good. It's really well, faked. I had them side by side, and it was really hard to tell the difference.
Yeah. Yeah. Leonard's saying, because he was told urethane is easier to sand. And the thing is, when you put on your epoxy, if you're going to bare metal and you apply epoxy, you're really not supposed to sand it. I mean, unless there's a window of opportunity when you start looking at the timeline for epoxies, and it'll tell you how soon you can top coat it versus how long you need to wait to top coat it. So it's like a couple different scenarios. Now, what I would normally do, I would put epoxy on, and I showed it in that deck lid I did for the Jade Mustang. That epoxy had been on there for months, and I just scuffed it. I just went over it with the Scotch-Brite and just broke the surface. That's all you do. Clean it, and then you can apply fillers on top of that. You don't worry about that. If you break through when you're block sanding or whatever, that's fine. You can reapply epoxy, but I'm not saying you have to. But the epoxy gives you a base. On top of all the bare metal, gives you a base to work from. And then when you apply the urethane on top or the high build, again, block sand that. it'll sand pretty easy, but you're not supposed to sand epoxy. So just keep that in mind.
I'm not 100% sure, but I believe the thinking behind it is that on the epoxy is they want you to do it within that, so many day window. They want it to chemically bond, the next layer to chemically bond to it. Whereas if you wait, you've got to scuff it. And now you're relying on a mechanical bond because it's not melting into it. Kind of like lacquer on top of lacquer. Yeah. That idea. That I'm not 100% sure, but that's what I'm taking the inference of what makes sense from what I've, from reading the tech sheets and talking to them about it. That just kind of seems that where they're headed with it.
Right. But ideally I know I've had panels that have sat for a long time and all I've done is break the surface, just break that edge and apply more stuff on top and it's fine. So, let's see, patch panels for holes in wheel house. Oh, you're looking for patch panels.
Oh, for small holes in the wheelhouse. I would just add that up to the sheet.
I've made my own. If you look at the Mystique Mustang, I actually handmade a little filler piece to go in the back where the quarter rolls back under and meets the kick panel or the drop panel. So I made my own for that. I mean, it's just you're better. Otherwise, you just buy a wheelhouse and chop it up.
A friend of mine that bought the quarter panel and the tail panel all assembled for his daughter's car. He has that piece you were just talking about, and I need that piece off of his, so he's saving that for me.
Okay.
So I get a factory piece to go back there.
Max says epoxy is like bare white metal with a proper crosshatch. Yep. Yeah, because it needs something to dig into and bond. So
it's like my firewall and around the A pillars and that whole area there. I've got tarps and stuff, so I tarped everything off. I sandblasted all that. That way I could epoxy that before I start putting all the front end pieces back on.
Yeah, beware of counterfeits. Matt's chiming in. Yeah, there's they make a bunch of counterfeit garbage.
The fake spark plugs and
So John's asking what was the part number. He's got a pair of 60005 on eBay. Wouldn't let me list some 2090 lines below others price gouging.
I don't remember. I'd have to go dig it up. I'm not even sure where it is right now.
Yeah, I know I have some sitting around here, but they are definitely 3M. In fact, I've used them because I have somewhere around here. I have a couple of N95 masks, but the rubber breaks on them. Or I might have to steal some elastic from my wife and just hook it in to make those masks work.
And I'm kicking myself now because there's a weird store we go to, and a couple of years ago they had 2 pallets full of N95 masks, and I only bought a couple boxes at the time. I was buying boxes, the big tall box, $10.
Yeah,
and it was like now it's like I should have bought a lot more.
Yeah, always that woulda, coulda, shoulda thing, right?
Yep.
Yeah, Max says after a month or so, epoxy gets really hard, and it does.
Yeah. Yes.
I will admit. It's hard to say, Bob. They were probably just a bunch of junk thrown in a filter case.
Yeah, there was a video I actually found on YouTube of a guy that was dissecting them and showing the difference between what to look for when you take it apart, and how it was seamed together and what was in it. And they try really hard, but it's like they do 99% of it, but that last 1% of the quality of the item in it is lacking. It's like they're almost there, but not.
So Mac is saying if you pass the paint window for the epoxy, you're supposed to scuff and spray a fresh coat. I'd agree with that. It wouldn't hurt, In fact, I think I did that on the. I put another coat on that deck lid, but I'd also tried using that pink stuff that Evercoat sent me. It was horrible. So let's see. Good Munder. I need to replace the apron next to the battery tray. The VIN number stamped on both Fender aprons. Attempt to keep the right side VIN or remove it. Cut it out. Just be careful. make a nice rectangular cutout, similar to this.
And make that your best welding job you've ever done.
Right. Very, very gentle weld, blend. Yeah. So yeah, cut it out. I haven't seen people who have restamped the VIN, but according to what I've learned, they had a specific size. So it's really hard to duplicate the actual size of the numbers.
Yeah, I've seen some guys asking about where to get the star and
Right.
things like that. And McMaster actually sells some of that stuff.
Really?
Yeah, McMaster Car. And one of the guys said, yeah, go over to McMaster Car, and they have a whole picture of a whole bunch of them on there. And I was looking through it, and there it was. I don't know if the scale and everything's right, but it's there.
Well, I may have to, because I know somebody who may have a set of the correct dies. But he said I could borrow them if I wanted to, but I have not. Yeah, outer wheel houses are pretty cheap. Yeah, it's worth it to just cut it up, honestly. Reed, can you touch on upgrading 66.2 from manual brake, steering to disc, and power steering? Found this GT my dad restored, pony 17 years after he passed away. Well, I've done the upgrades on the 68 Mustang, and it's going to be very similar between the two. Now, the 66, the difficulty is the steering shaft, because the 66 has the spike. It just has a straight shaft coming out of the box right to the center of the steering wheel. And if you're going to do a conversion, you have to do something for that. Now, I don't know. I know for the brakes, CSRP is the company I used.
Mm-hmm.
They sell a very thorough kit that you can bolt on and swap, and that's pretty easy. As far as the 66, I have not done a power steering conversion, but Borgeson is the company that makes those kits, and I've used that for the 68. So just keep that in mind, that the 65 and 6, they have the killer spike steering column that doesn't collapse, and you have to deal with that as well. So any thoughts on that, Robert?
I know a lot of the guys on vintage Mustang are not a fan of the Borgeson kit. I don't know exactly. I think the issue is the some of them are nice and tight. Other ones are kind of sloppy. I think that's more the issue than anything else. Past that, the only other alternative you have is you go with a stock one, or you go with, if you've got the the gung ho to do one of the electric power steering, but you've got to cut your shaft. You've got to, there's if you're not into fab work, you don't want to do it, because there's a lot. You have to cut the shaft, cut the pipe. There's a lot to do to it.
Yep. His filters say made 3/20/20. That sounds fishy.
Yeah.
Could be. Let's see. Josh, a lot of people have gotten smarter on inspecting, particularly the GT's K code and so forth, to check the right side VIN, so it needs to be kept. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Hold on a second. I gotta back up a little bit. Sprayway has no ammonia. I guess he's saying Windex does. Oh, okay. I'm gonna get back up to Joseph. My paint guy said before that you cover bad metal with epoxy primer. You need to spray with Sprayway glass cleaner. It's an ammonia-based glass cleaner, and that causes some bond between the metal and epoxy. Okay. I know I use Windex. On bare metal, I always wipe it down with Windex. And like he was saying, GM is saying Sprayway has no ammonia, but Windex does. So I'm going to have to, I don't know. I've always just used Windex. That's what we use at the body shop for everything, and it worked great. Yeah,
and it's the one thing I always remember is you don't want to use the stuff with ammonia on tinted windows, the plastic tinted.
Oh,
some of that would peel the glue off on some of the old ones. Well, it used to be that way. I don't know if it is anymore, but it used to be that way.
Yeah. They sell at Dollar General. It's really cheap. It's in an aerosol can.
I tell you, the if you for cleaning glass, the best stuff I've ever gotten was a couple of cans of that Bing Swanger, however you pronounce it. You know, the glass company is that their cans of stuff. I knew somebody that worked there. I got a couple of cans of that. Oh man, that was wonderful. I'd never had clean glass so easy in my life.
And it smells good too.
Yeah.
We use that at the body shop all the time.
Yeah, it's great stuff.
Yeah, Brian is talking about you wait too long to go. You go from chemical to mechanical recoat.
Yeah,
that's what we were saying earlier. Joseph, sorry, it's ammonia free. Okay. Yeah, Matt saying maybe China can restamp the bins for us. I wouldn't even trust them to do that.
Or just custom order. You know, when you buy your Fender apron, say, hey, this is my VIN number. Just go ahead and stamp it and then ship it to me.
Right.
You know, that would be nice.
Yeah, but I wouldn't trust them to get that right either.
No, I'd be upside down or or some other figures in there, characters.
Let's see where to go. I have Dave here tonight. Dave Brittain at Disney Shop sells what they call Ford show number punch set. I found it about 2 years ago. I would look for it. Okay. Yep.
I plan on just welding mine in. I'm not,
Yeah, I mean,
I get it. I get it.
Well, the problem you might run into, I'm just saying, I'm not saying this is anything in particular. This is just a piece of metal that I have.
Mm-hmm.
It's rotted away.
Yeah.
You know, this piece of metal I have, there's nothing. If you were to try to use a piece that was from the car that was rusted away, you're going to have trouble. So this is just a piece of metal. This is nothing. Just a piece of metal that I have laying around.
And as mine is, it wasn't an issue with what an issue with rust. It was an issue with running it through ditches and running it into other cars and that kind of fun stuff that happened to its car in its life.
Yeah. On bare metal, my system has a surface wash, not as harsh as wax and grease removal. Okay. So let's see here.
Yeah, I'm lucky. We have a fairly new paint supply place. It's not too far from me. That's an industrial coatings. And they have everything, all the really good supply of body shop stuff of everything you could want. Oh, right. That sounds familiar.
So there's some information. I'm going to write that down just because. Just for random information.
And I'm curious to see how that goes. How your engraving project goes.
We'll give Dave a bell for that. So for some information he shared with us there. Somebody should make an electric power steering kit for the old manual steer cars.
Yeah. Right now. Right now, guys are just getting the power steering out of a Prius or another Toyota car or a few other cars, and just you cut the shaft, you put it in there, but that would be nice if somebody offered that as a kit. However, you've got lawyer issues to deal with there, so that's what I worry about.
Yeah. That would be interesting stamping to see that. Thank you, Reed. Appreciate that. Glad you're here. I think we all have, Mac. I wish, but the problem is, you can do the simple math on it. If somebody's going to build a quarter panel that you can buy from China for $100, even though the quality is crap, we know that. What's it going to take to build that quarter panel here in the States and have it right? And what kind of numbers are you going to pay for it? That's what everybody cares about. If you have a competitor for $100, is it going to cost you $350 to buy one that's built right? And how many people are going to jump on that bandwagon? That's the hard part.
Because
I'm not against it.
Oh yeah, and the factory stamp fenders that I think NPD had like 2 left of the passenger side, or I forget which side, for the 65, 66, because they bought out the remaining inventory from the company that was stamping them. And the question is okay, if people, and everybody asks, well, when are they going to bring it back? Are they going to get somebody else to stamp them? So, well, you're going to have to jack the price up another couple $100 a piece to make it worth it. And people weren't willing to spend what the price was, it was what, say $300. They weren't willing to spend $300 on the Fender before. They're not going to spend 500 on it now.
Right.
They're going to spend $130 and buy an import and just make it fit.
So Joseph is bringing up the question again about the ammonia. Doesn't ammonia etch the metal and cause a bond? I don't know.
Not a chemist.
I don't know the answer. I just know we had good luck using Windex. Yeah. Brian from China Vin would read right to left, dead giveaway. Actually, I think it would read up and down, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it be a vertical? I think they don't they write up and down or something? I don't know.
I don't remember anymore. I slept since then.
Well, Mac, I would too, but the difficulty is having somebody actually build them.
Mm-hmm. And my thing was the stamping plant that was making them that licensed, because Ford still owns all the dies, and the companies will, I don't know how it works exactly, but they make a deal and they say, okay, we'll license the use of it and we'll stamp it. Well, the company doing it stopped doing it, and everybody wants somebody else to do it. And my thought was, send them to England. And the reason I say send them to England, if you ever looked up Heritage Motor Cars, I think it's Heritage Motor Cars, something along those lines, they have all the tooling, all the jigs, all the everything for making MGs and a whole bunch of those cars, a good number of those. They have all the stuff to do it. They stamp out the parts. I'm like, hey, they're set up to do something like that. Why not somebody make a deal with them, send the dies over to them and let them crank out parts. They got the tool.
That'd be great. That's where I give credit to AMD. AMD makes some fantastic parts. They hold their standards up.
Mm-hmm.
I actually communicate with them through Instagram and different things, and I'm always impressed by what they're doing. So,
it's like one of the things I was thinking about earlier. So, this hood I got behind me that I don't like, and back when Goodmark was Goodmark, and they were buying GM stampings and they were modifying them and putting adding the bump to it to make a cowl hood out of a stock stamping. And they did a wonderful job at the time. Why didn't anybody do that with the Mustang hood and just go ahead and make an all steel hood with the Shelby bump on it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know why.
Yeah. So John's going to go spray some paint and see if his filters are any good.
Yeah. Like I said, mine were so bad that I was mixing the paint and it was right in front of me. And probably 30 seconds in, 45 seconds in, I could start to smell it. And then my eyes started burning because it was the full face shield type. And I was like, no, I had to walk away.
Yeah. So I don't know who EPAS is.
That's
EPA.
The electronic power steering kit.
Oh, there you go.
That's the acronym for it.
Okay. I've not dealt with it. So
electric power assisted steering.
There you go. I'll give you a bell for that.
I didn't know they had a kit for it.
So
just out of curiosity.
Yeah, you may look into that. Yeah, I know, Mac. I'm tired of making stuff fit too.
Yeah.
It seems to be just the way it is. Dave, you would think with how far advanced digital copying in CAD is, a stamp for car parts would be easy and inexpensive, but it's not. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And with the laser scanning we have now too.
Yeah. Well, I remember, like you're talking about Goodmark,
mm-hmm.
and they would take a car, like a mint condition car,
mm-hmm.
unweld it basically, and copy the panels before they went cheap, before Goodmark went down the drain. But that was when Mark actually owned
mm-hmm.
the company. And so they would take apart a car and get the panels right and
mm-hmm.
stamp them out and everything. And then, of course, I talked about this before. He had brought in some people to help him with the business, and they basically ran him off. They took over the business and decided
mm-hmm.
we're just going to build cheap crap and we don't care. And that's why he created AMD.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway.
They make a lot of Chrysler stuff, don't they?
A lot of Mopar stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
And Chevys.
Yeah, and because I remember seeing when I was looking at, I was just curiosity looking at wanting to do a Chrysler one of these days, and I want to say some of their Fenders were popping up. They were $700-800, but if it fits like any of the rest of their parts, it's worth it.
Yeah.
For a one-time thing, it's like you put it on the car, you're done.
Right. And that's how it should be.
Yeah.
And if it costs that much, it costs that much.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I could tell you, if I actually did the math and counted all the hours I put in a Fender,
mm-hmm.
I already have, technically $500-600 in that Fender,
mm-hmm.
you know, just to make it fit the car.
Yeah.
And that's ridiculous. So,
yeah, these aftermarket ones I have, the driver's side's not bad in most ways. The passenger side, you know, it's kind of like this too much. So I'm going to have to open it up, and you know the drill.
oh yeah. Yeah. So Leonard paid $400 for a quarter panel from Brazil, and it was junk. Yeah. That's on his Torino, I'm sure. Goodmunder. I was so unhappy with the Dynaquan part, the panel between the rear window and the deck filler panel. Yeah.
See, that's the issue I have on with my trunk lid. The way it was in the factory, the outer tips were actually a little bit low to make the center of it even with that piece. And it was just, they did that. It was that way from day one. You know, it never fit from day one. And I was like, I don't know if I want to just split the difference. I have to look at that, or, you know, I take it off, I block it, I stand on it, you know. Yeah. I'm not sure. You know, when I get to the back end of the car, then I'll worry about it.
Well, like the Brooklyn Pony, that was one piece that I saved, was that filler piece,
mm-hmm.
you know, along with various other internal structure pieces. But that's one piece that I did not have to deal with on that car. Dave's saying the new old stock original dies are no longer usable. They're completely worn out. Found it online a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I talked about this before. I have a friend who works for Kia here in LaGrange, Georgia, where they build brand new Kias. His job is to maintain tooling. What's that?
Got one of them.
Yeah. His job is to maintain the tooling on the dies. So when they stamp out like 10 doors at a time, and they might do so many cycles, and they have a laser or something that monitors the shape of the dies. And they have a second set of dies ready to go. When that set is starting to show wear, they pull that set out, they slide in the new set, and while that set is being used, the other set is retooled basically to bring it back to specs.
That's what my uncle did. When my uncle, most of my relatives are in Detroit, and my uncle was tool and die. And that's what he did. They made, you know, stampings, they made injection molds. In fact, one of the last projects that he did years ago before he had to quit was redoing the taillight lens mold for the 65, 66 Mustang. So that was one of his last projects, was to make a new, basically a brand new one of those for the Ford licensed parts at the time.
Okay.
And I one of these days I got to ask him, I was like, do you have any samples you kept from when you were testing that?
That would be cool. That would be very cool. You're talking about British Motor Heritage from Octagon Garage.
That's they got some good videos.
Body parts for MGB from the original dies. You can also get complete body shells. They're very expensive. Just a Fender will cost over $800.
Yeah, yep. I want to say the body of something or other I was looking at was about $8,000 for a full body, which is not bad. And that's what she would love to have. And that'd be the way to go with one of those, to be honest. Yeah,
that would. Yeah, you're right, Brian. It is nice to have at least something that we can start with. I agree with that. Nick, haven't talked to Nick in a while. Glad you're here. Any tips for removing paint primer from the inside of a plug weld without unscrewing and unclamping the piece to be welded? I saw something about grinding a drill flat to scrape it out. Anything else?
Okay, this is I was doing this all day. I have different methods. This is one. This is one of those cheapy little handheld sandblasters, little plastic shield on it. I used to have a bigger shield and those brushes like you put on your garage door. And you could put up to something, so you could put it right up to it, and it would shield most of it from flying around. This is one method. The other method I use is I've got just a brush that I put in a drill, you know, like a Dremel brush. And then the other,
I have something to show, by the way, that is going to answer that question in a different way. In fact, The Jade video that's coming out tomorrow will address exactly that. I will have another answer for that.
And
okay.
This is another method I use. This is the if you're familiar with the sanding drums.
Yeah. You go ahead and talk about it. I'll be right back. Keep talking.
But initially they start out kind of looking like this. This is the drum type. This was in the tapered. And what I'll do is on the tapered ones, I will peel it off till it's the diameter of the plug weld, the hole. And then I just run it in there, go like that. And it's nice and clean. And then I do my weld. It works pretty well. Let's see. Oh, and I've also used just a chisel. I've got some really sharp, tiny chisels, and I'll just stick it in there, scrape it around, because I'm not a big fan of using the, prepping the whole area, sand it off, and then put the weld-through primer on. That's not my thing.
Okay, Nick, I have another answer for you, and I'm just gonna tell you that I actually have these listed on my Amazon page. So if you want to check it out, and these will be shown, I'll show this in action tomorrow on the video that I'm putting out. 1 o'clock, I think I have that one scheduled to release. You ever seen one of these, Robert?
Yep, I've got some yellow ones over here somewhere.
Okay, this is from 3M, and I know it says 3M Rolock bristle disc is what it says on it, right?
Yep.
I can tell you, I learned about these working on airplanes.
Yes.
These are designed specifically to remove corrosion. Okay. And they will remove a lot more than corrosion. They're not cheap. These are like $5 a piece or something. Okay. But these little fingers, I call them finger wheels. This thing will change shape, and at a high speed, these little fingers will actually kind of flare out a little bit. They can get into those tight spaces and clean that stuff out. Now, I've shown, I have it on a video tomorrow. I actually talk about this, and I show it in action, cleaning up some certain areas, and it works fantastic.
And there's also the ones that are like a radial type, like a wire brush.
Yeah. There's various.
They're super handy. I get them at the swap meet here. There's guys that show up and they'll have boxes of them. They're usually about $2 to $4 a piece, depending on the size. Right. And I don't use a lot of them, so I'm not going to buy a whole box. So I just grab a couple here and there.
Well,
but I've got tons of Rolock discs and.
Yeah, if you want to check these out, I posted on my Amazon page products I frequently use or something like that. So I have like a variety of different things, but this stuff that I'm telling you, these are fantastic, and you just have to have, you have to have a Rolock base. This is actually a 2-inch base I'm using, but they make them bigger. But this thing, and they make these, this is 3-inch, and they make them all the way down to 1-inch. So just know that these are fantastic.
Just show you how old some of my Rolock. These are not the Rolock ones, because there's the other mounting flanges. When's the last time you saw some of those? Oh,
never.
There's a couple oddball ones I bought.
Yeah.
And I bought a box of these things at an estate sale one time, and I don't know what grit they are. Some of them, the adhesive doesn't hold that well anymore. But I bought so many of them. It's like when one flies off, it's like, no big deal, get another one out. I've got, a huge box of them. So I don't buy new discs.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you that I have tons of actually used sanding discs that I've gotten from the aircraft side of things, because they'll use them to basically sand off like braze material. And it'll only cut so much, and once that they're just tossed. So like, I'm not kidding. I would bet I have 5,000 discs.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise because I know. And it's like, I knew a guy that lived up in Seattle, and he used to go to the Boeing store, and he'd buy, those 12-inch or longer drill bits, because they had them at the store. They use them for drilling one hole, and then they throw them away. And people say, well, why would you do that? It's not worth sacrificing a tens of thousands of dollar part over trying to reuse a drill bit. It's not worth it. You just buy another, use a new bit every time. It's just much cheaper that way.
Yeah. So I answered Nick's question. Let's see, Mac. Hey, Barry, remember the outer rocker panel question I asked you? So far, I found that all the aftermarket outer rocker stampings, at least for 65 and 66, are wrong. Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah. And even the convertible ones, the inner part of the convertible ones are not accurate either. The Dynacorn one is the best, but it's still not, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Can Robert show us his project in the background? Well, I don't know if he can walk his camera around or not.
Let's see.
You can try it. I don't know what his range is, but I will say this: if you go back and look at viewers' projects, Matt, Robert's car is featured on viewers' projects a few episodes ago. I don't remember what number it was, 10 maybe.
Yeah, I believe it was 10.
So you can see his project, and Robert talks about all this in his video. But it's nice to see you making progress and getting stuff welded together.
All right, you see those clamps down there? If you can, I don't know if you can hear me or not.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, you see the wooden extensions on those clamps?
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm going to take myself off the video for a second. You go ahead.
All right, hang on.
I'm going to take myself off, and when I do, I can't comment.
All right, so let me move something real quick, and I'll have a little more range.
Okay. I know he's built some extensions or something there, so let me see if he's moving the whole shooting match around.
Well, my wireless router that I used out here was one I kept, and I wasn't sure why I didn't get rid of it. Now I remember why. It's because when it gets hot, it crashes. So I'm doing it right now.
I'm gonna pull off the video for just.
Yeah, you can see those extensions I put on there because I couldn't find my really big clamps, so I just had to, you got to make it work. And those are about the only welds I'm going to show anybody because those are halfway decent looking. Let's see. And if you see those plug holes are a little off, and that's because this front panel needs to go back a little bit further. And I've been fighting with it. It just doesn't fit well. Let's see. Why don't I get in here? All right. And you see all those plug welds up there. Lots and lots of, a lot more grinding to do. And yeah, you can look at those two. Essentially, that's all I've been doing today is just working on this and that. These little Harbor Freight welders are pretty good. A lot better than my old one. Great little cart too, especially for the price. Those things, you get a damaged one for half price, or like $65. Fix it and go on. Yeah,
those are nice. I have one. I have the older version that doesn't open all the way to the straight up and down.
Yeah,
it has the
and for the price, it was like it was like $64 or something. It's like, oh, that's going home, whether I got to fix it or not.
Yeah. Let's see. Dave is commenting just a bit of information. My son was working at a machine shop and to make the die for a plastic injection mold for a peanut butter jar was $45,000. To make the mold for a peanut butter jar. Oh man. That's crazy. That's crazy. Let's see. Let me back up a little bit. Was
that me?
No, you're good.
Oh, I didn't know if that was me because this cable I'm using doesn't have the clip on it.
Okay. You're fine. You're a little out of focus right now, but I think you'll come back here in a minute. As gasket cleaner from Gold. Oh, okay, so Dave's talking about, I guess, the finger wheel that I was referring to. Yeah, it'll remove a lot of stuff. It's really, really great.
Well, and the nice thing about those is it's plastic with the grit in it, and as it wears, it's constantly refreshing itself.
Yeah.
I mean, they just keep going until it's worn. It doesn't really wear out until it's just gone.
Well, and what I did, I found them on Amazon. So I listed various ones on Amazon. I also listed. I use it's a polycarbide disc that wears away as you use it. So it's like it starts off like this thick, and then it'll wear down as you go through. But the problem is, you can't stay in one spot. It'll generate heat, so you have to move around. So I listed that as well. It's also on the Amazon page.
Is that a grinding disc, or is that?
Yeah, it goes on a 4.5-inch grinder.
Oh, I've got some Walters ones that are kind of like that.
Yeah, this one is Warrior, and then there's another one. I used to get them from Lowe's or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But Warrior is like a brand. I think Harbor Freight sells them too.
Yeah,
but they're really good at taking off just anything.
Mm-hmm.
But they will wear out.
You know what I was thinking, there's a tool I want, and I have to send you a link to it. I've not been able to find it anywhere other than direct from China. There is an air tool that is made for grinding off the welds. Say like when you do a line of welds, say you're on a seam, it has basically two little guide pieces and a metal wheel in the middle. So it grinds down and it won't go any further. And it's like $600, but it's this little air tool, and it said, they make everything in China except they say the wheel comes from Japan.
Oh,
the cutter wheel comes from Japan.
Yeah,
because obviously that's one of those is like it's got to be a good part. It's a really cool tool, but it's like, not for $600. But that would be so nice just be able to just run right along and use that for grinding off and not have to worry about getting into the to the parent metal. Yeah,
I used to use at the body shop. I had a spot face gun, and it had a detent. You could adjust how far that spot face would go, and it was awesome.
Yeah,
I forget who made it, but it was an awesome tool.
Eastwood has one for drilling out the spot welds, right? Like $170 or something.
Yeah,
and if you're doing a cowl, it's a good idea.
Yeah, yeah. Mac is asking what the hood is on your car.
That is the Dynacorn. It's a fiberglass top but it uses the standard steel substructure on the bottom. No, I wouldn't get it again. But it's also sold under what's the other big Scott Drake. Scott Drake sells the same hood under their name. It's the same hood either way. It's a nice looking hood, but there's a spot on both sides that if you're going down the fender, it just has a little where it kind of flares up and then flares back down. And I'm going to have to clamp with 2x4s, hit here, heat it. I've got a mat heater that's used for like wrapping around PVC pipe to bend it, that I'm going to use that to soften the plastic just a little bit because it's not just fiberglass, it's plastic. And then I'm going to pull that down. Okay. So Brian, I'm glad now you know what they're for. But I was trying. I haven't really promoted that product because I was waiting to show the video. Like tomorrow, like I said, the video will be up about 1 o'clock, and it's basically stripping down a bunch of the Jade Mustang. So people will like that, I think. Now here's something was something else I was thinking about. For grinding off plug welds. Okay, when you've got that little weld nugget there, does anybody make a cutter for, thinking aircraft, for a rivet shaver? Is there a cutter for a rivet shaver that would cut steel? I've got a carbide one, and I haven't tried it yet. It's old, it's beat up, but I'm half tempted to just try it. The ones that mount into the countersinks. I'm half tempted to just try it, and if I ruin it, I haven't lost anything. Yeah, that would be a cool tool to have if somebody would make it. Would. And it's been a while since I've used a rivet shaver, but it's been a long time since I've used a rivet shaver. Yeah. I mean, it's just an end mill thing that mounts. Yeah, just an end mill. Yeah. But the difficulty with carbide, as we all know, you get off a little bit. Yeah. I mean, it'll shatter. It'll break. And especially with your weld, it's like it's not a perfect dome or anything. It's going to go and yank out of your hand, and carbide's awesome, but it doesn't hold up from any kind of flex point. Yeah, or so, if you'd make one, if you could put a stone in there or something. a coarse
Yeah.
stone. I'm just thinking out loud,
Yeah. All right. We'll see you next. Yeah. Typically what I do is, I just use a grinding wheel.
Yeah.
I go right on top of the spot weld, and I'll just walk it down and go to the next one and walk it down, go to the next one and walk it down. And then as I did with I showed on the Jade video, I use that little body separator tool, that flat blade, and tap in, and those welds will just pop.
Yeah, and that's why I'm always trying to come up with. It's like, is there some other tool that would allow you to do this and not make it easier? Always make it easier. Yeah, I've got a bunch of those little blue lights. I guess the little hockey puck free lights at Harbor Freight.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. However, the last one I got, I want to get the new one that has the detachable heads on it like that. Yeah, the last one of those blue ones I got, I came in the shop, I walked up, I had it in my hand, and the drill, I've got a bunch of stuff on the drill press. I went up, stuck it on the side of the drill press, it fell off. I was like, huh. And whenever I picked it up again, put it up, it fell off. Huh. Picked it up, I looked at it. Oh, there's a little silver thing in the back. And I put it up against something. Oh, they didn't put a magnet in it.
Let's see, Gary, when you guys are setting up your cars for putting new metal in, do you level it from the rockers, or you set up according to the shop specs? That's a good question.
Yeah, the way I did mine was I leveled the rockers, but then I took the shop, the numbers in the manual for the heights, and then worked that all out. You can't really see anything left, but I had marks all over the floor where everything was supposed to sit. And, now I'm at the point where I don't need that anymore. But yeah, I leveled it up and then worked from there. And then I've got a friend that's got a 66 coupe. So it was like, I'll go measure yours, look at this. And I got a few weird dimensions, was like, cosine error type dimensions, because I wanted them that way. And I'm within 98% of where everything needs to be. Some of it, you just have to, like, I've got to move. This wants to be here, but this wants to be here. So you've just got the suspension part has got to be here no matter what. So everything else has just got to work.
Well, and, I understand his point. And depending on what you're doing, because I put the car, I'll level out the rockers as best I can. And then I use like I said, and when I did Brooklyn Pony and put the front frame rails in, I had a parts car that I used as a reference because I had nothing else to go by. And using those measurements are okay, but ultimately, depending on what you're looking at, I worry more about how the fenders fit, how the doors fit, how the quarters fit, because you can have everything in spec and nothing lines up. It's just.
And especially with new parts, you don't just because these holes line up doesn't mean it's going to fit. And that's why mine, until this morning, both fenders were still on it when I started welding stuff together, because I've got it all up there and it's like, okay, everything lines up, and I start putting it together, because I get to a point where you got to get the suspension stuff in the right place, and the rest of it you just got to make it look right. Yep.
That's more important to me, is how everything lines up. I can't say that, I got this within the quarter inch, whenever nothing else fits. Dave is commenting that the depth set grinder is found here.
I have to look at, I'll look that one up.
Yeah. I don't know why. He should be able to put, I think Dave should be able to post a hyperlink, but I guess maybe it's not letting him. Let's see. Oh, Brian, I'll give you a bell for that. Now, did it say not assembled in China? That's the thing, because a lot of these parts, they'll say made in the USA with parts bought from China. That's how they get around that, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Matt, you guys checked out Peterson Restoration. He does Brooklyn Pony level projects. Yeah, I've seen his videos, and he does it as a selling point for his videos. That's what he's all about, selling his product, and that's fine. I've had some people try to do a somewhat of a comparison, but as they point out, I show how to, and he just shows it happening, which is different.
And I've watched one or two of his, and he talks about, people ask him for dimensions and things like that. and he's reluctant to give out any of that information, which I understand it. From his point of view, it's a business.
Right.
So yeah, I understand it. I was just thinking about, that's my 84 El Camino.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that was back before silver was a thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to have to find a new color.
Yeah. I hate silver.
But at the time, silver wasn't a thing. And I was the same one that said, hey, I want to paint the kitchen gray. And then all of a sudden that became a thing for everything. And it's like, yeah, that just, no, I was ahead of my time.
The reason I don't hate silver as a color, I hate painting silver.
And it was metallic. It's metallic.
Yeah. Silver is a paint nightmare, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So let's see. Hold on a second. Yeah. So Gary's saying he likes Peterson restorations, but he doesn't show how he does anything, which, and that's fine. That's his angle. For me, I'd rather teach stuff. I'd rather get information out that people can use and, build their projects. I've had today, I had at least 3 emails from people asking me questions, at least. And that doesn't even count my Instagram or my Facebook page. Probably today I've answered over 10 questions because I want to, Now I can't always give the answer that they're looking for, but I try. I try to get the information out. So
and that's my thing is I enjoy, no matter what it is, I just enjoy helping other people with whatever it is. It doesn't matter what it is. If I can help, I like to help,
Yeah.
And if I haven't got a clue, I don't know. I will say I don't know.
Let's see.
All right.
Oh, there we go.
Who can name that car?
Oh, that I know what that is, but I don't know the name. I know what that is. I've seen those.
Yeah, and they sell electric versions here in the U.S. now.
Yeah, but that's actually from like the Philippines or something, isn't it?
It's a Moki. It's a kit that goes onto a Mini, kind of like a Volkswagen Bug kit.
Okay.
And that was, we were at Aristotle's Lyceum in Greece, and we were walking back, and we were walking down the road, and I saw that thing. I was like, okay, that's just cool. I had to take a picture of it.
Yeah.
And, then ended up walking by all the guards and the military buses, and it's like, I don't think we belong here. Then, we're at the Turkish embassy. I get it now. I was like, there's guard shacks, there's buses full of, military, and I got there's nobody else there. I look, see the flags, like, oh yeah, I understand.
Okay. Yeah, Bob's asking if the assembly CDs online are worth anything. I don't know. I will say for the 6566, there is a car club in Australia that has a section where you can download pretty much all of that stuff off of their website, all the different manuals, and it's the factory manuals. They've got pretty much all of it on there if you want. But to be honest, I really haven't found a lot that's useful for me. Right.
That's just me,
Yep. Joseph, when you get the 68 starting to get close to paint, can you do a video on your steps for the primer to body work and then how you jam and spray the whole car? Is going to be metallic. Well, the original color of that car was Gulfstream Aqua, and that's what I'm going back with. So I don't know. I guess it has some metallic in it. I'm not sure. But tomorrow I will have a video where I'm stripping it down and trying to get it ready for epoxy. And now the next video I'm going to do is getting all the body panels in epoxy, except for the right front fender, because the right front fender is pretty junk. And I may just that fender. I started grinding on it, and I found Bondo everywhere. Mm-hmm. In fact, the corner where the headlight bucket or extension bolts on, mm-hmm. it's all Bondo.
It's surprising on new fenders how much rough sanding they do before they put the coating on. before they put that black coating on.
Yeah.
You look at it, they did a lot of sanding on those things after they came out of the stampings. I mean, they're pretty rough.
Yeah. So he's talking about that depth grinder set. Looks like a plunge router. Okay.
Yeah, I'll take a look at that. I'm always looking for new toys, but I do want to get one of those belt sanders like the one that you got.
Yeah, I love that little thing. Let's see.
It's like that cutoff tool, the big long Chief one that Harbor Freight has. I bought that thing there, and it's like, oh wow, that's a nice handy tool compared to just using the 90-degree one.
Made in Taiwan, but pressure switch. Okay. The silver looks to be metallic mixed with clear. Yeah, Mac's saying he's calling it a Jeep buggy, but here you go. Dave is saying, is that a Jolly?
Yeah, it's
the name of that?
It's a Moki. Yeah, the car. Yeah.
Moki.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually,
there it is.
Yeah. Yep.
So he's answered that. I wish I could find a Jeep body kit for VW Bug Project. I'm sure somebody makes something.
It would be a tiny little Jeep to go on. It would be kind of cool looking, actually.
What? Here's a idea that I have. Now, if people have seen my videos that I made on the what I call Speed Buggy Project, where I took that original body from a '69 Volkswagen, and it was a fiberglass body.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a Lido. I can't think of the name right now, but it's escaping me. But anyway, it's on a 68 chassis now. I shortened the chassis, did all that stuff to it. But what I want to do, what I think would be really, if I could get away with it, is take one of those Can-Am off-road dune buggies.
Uh-huh.
The super buggies, that you can buy already built.
Uh-huh.
Take the cage off of it, take that VW body, and just drop it on.
That would be cool.
And then it would have a VW VIN number on it somewhere.
The Franken car. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, that if you've seen Travis Pastrana. Pastrana.
Yeah.
I follow him on Instagram. And man, he's got some of those things. They're high tech.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, why couldn't I just put some street tires on that thing and drop that Volkswagen body on it?
Yeah.
Even a real Volkswagen body.
Yeah.
I mean,
who would
know the difference?
It'd be a heck of a sleeper.
Yeah. I mean, and fast, got, brakes and steering and all the cool stuff you need.
Yeah.
I mean,
I tell you, talking about Volkswagens, this is the only picture that I have of a Volkswagen Bug that I redid. It was the last year of the swing axle, whatever year that was, 67 or 68.
68, I believe.
Okay. And it's in the very, I'll zoom in, but that's, you can barely see it back there. That's as much as I can zoom in, because that's been a number of years ago, and it was not a great picture. But that's the only picture I have of it, is that one right there, that little bit. The parts for this Mustang, the sheet metal parts for Mustangs, I don't want to hear anybody complain about it. You deal with the crap fiberglass for one of those Baja Bugs, that's just so much more difficult than the sheet metal is for these, because it wasn't even. I mean, there was stuff that was an inch too wide. Oh yeah, that's just that. That's not finesse. That's cut it and put it back together.
Well, it was funny. At the body shop, we did some. We had a company called Certifit, which if people wanted the cheapest thing they could find, it was Certifit. We called it Sortifit. And we had a bumper cover for a Honda Accord from Certifit. And it was like a 95 Honda Accord or something. So, they were, and maybe not, anyway, doesn't matter. We got this bumper cover. It was 3 inches wider than the car. Wider. You could bolt one side on and have 3 inches hanging out the other side, or go the other way. And we were like, who even could use this thing?
I'm just crazy. I wonder if it's one of these things that's the mold fit, but when we pulled it out of the mold, we hung it on something and it just stretched, when it sat there.
I don't know. It was terrible. It was just terrible. Okay. So Mac has a chassis with no turbo, with a turbo engine. Wow. Why don't you send that to me? And I'll put that in my speed buggy, because I haven't driven that thing in 2 years. Yeah, new Max.
Yeah.
Hey, the other thing, Mac, you could, depending on what you're looking for, is find an old body.
Mm-hmm.
Find one of the vintage bodies and use it. Believe it or not, that dune buggy that I have, El Lobo. That was the. Yeah, El Lobo, I think is the name of it. Anyway, I bought that at a yard sale for $100. I paid $100 for that dune buggy because it was all rotted away.
Yeah.
And I restored the body and put it on a whole nother chassis. So
I don't run across.
Okay. Hey, Gary, thank you for that. I'll give you a bell for that. I'll take $2 any day. Let's see, Brian, gonna have a bunch of paint questions for you guys when I get to priming my 69 project. Did I forget to mention that 69 VW? You got a camera in my garage, Barry? No, I don't. But if you haven't seen, go look at my dune buggy videos, because I took a really beat up body and fixed it, and then took a 68 chassis and shortened it 14 inches to make it fit that body. So it was that was interesting.
The one I did, I ended up, the engine in it was gone. It's typical. Yeah. But at the time, the neighbor across the street, he had a company in Mexico. So the time I said, hey, pick me up an engine while you're there. So he picked me up a brand new 1600, and they were like $600 in Mexico when they were but they were still making them up until, I don't know, whatever year it was. But you could buy brand new 1600s up until, 90s. That was the way to go. It was like brand new, done.
Yeah. Here you go. Chris Reed, gas wire welder better than flux wire welder? Yes. In my opinion, I would not use a flux. Just the gas wire is the way to go. Much cleaner, much easier to deal with.
Yeah.
So
the only time I use flux is like on the trailer or something, and that's for stuff that's like, okay, it's just expanded steel. I'm just putting that back on, that kind of stuff. If it's structural, no, I just don't like using it. It's just a mess.
Yeah, there's, Mac, you may want to look. I found bodies on like Facebook Marketplace. I found some that were brand new bodies that had never been put on, and they were stacked up. And now they were not the prettiest, variations of molds. I love the shape of mine. I just love it. But I got lucky with that deal. As hindsight, this is Roger. Nobody runs across deals like Barry does. But the dune buggy was really ugly when he drug it home. Yeah, it was. But is people look at things and they go, oh, that's too much work, or that's gonna, I can't see. I see things done. Yeah. I can envision it completely finished and work to that goal. So that's how that dune buggy.
You got to have that little bit of rose-colored glasses, but at the same time, realize what it's going to take to get there. You got to have balance there. Yeah.
Okay. So Gary's leaving us. That's fine. Glad you're here, Gary. Appreciate it. Use stick weld or anything with flux weld. I agree. I agree with that. Scott's back.
And it's been so long since I stick welded. I don't know how well it would go. It'd go about like your TIG welding would.
Yeah, that turned ugly real quick, but you know what?
But the first thing I noticed was you didn't clean it.
Well,
but then
the area that I was actually welding, the metal, I'd sanded off, but I didn't clean the whole section. I just cleaned off
like with acetone.
Oh yeah, I did not do that.
That makes a big difference. With TIG welding is so picky about wanting to be, perfectly clean. But then again, if I could do it enough, good enough now.
Well,
I'd be sticking a tungsten in there just like you did.
The last time I TIG welded on anything was 95.
That's
you
about
know,
the
that actually
TIG welded
TIG weld. So, but you know, one nice thing about this TIG welder is you can stick weld with it. And I may actually use it for some stick welding. So Brian, let's see. Yes. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate that. You know, it's great having Robert on here as well. He's got some great information to share, and I appreciate him being here.
Smart something, but you know.
69 VW convertible. Nice.
Oh yeah. You don't see many convertibles.
No. There you go.
Hmm.
Yes, that's what I have, Mac. And if you haven't looked, I have a whole bunch of videos on that El Lobo.
And speaking of weird cars, if you ever remember one of the, I don't remember if it was Top Gear or if it was the Grand Tour, where they made this car for old people and they painted it beige and it fell apart going down the freeway. It was a Fiat Multipla. It had this weird, hideous looking car. They didn't make very many of them. And when we were in Greece last time and we were going down the road in the taxi, I looked over and on the side of the road, there was one. There's one. And it's like, what are the odds of actually getting to see one of those in person? If you look it up, it's hideous. It's just, you know, they only made a few thousand of them or something like that, but oh, it was horrible.
Yeah. Oh, it's kind of like, what's the one, Isetta?
Oh yeah. There's a guy who has one.
The front end opens up.
No speedometer. And the funny thing was, I was going down the road and I was in my rear view mirror. I could see the sun was just right. I could see it. I was like, wow, that's a weird looking car. It's got a wheel in the wheel in the middle between the two. And it was painted black. So I kept looking and looking. He got closer and it's like, oh, this is an Isetta. I couldn't even tell what it was, you know, because of the sun and everything. It was like, man, can't remember the last time I've even seen one.
Let's see. Are we real world or exercise?
Oh, we're real.
We're pretty real, Guido.
I think.
Okay, so Dave is saying Dr. Seuss car, I call them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad had a thing. I remember learning about Isettas from my dad. I think he said he always wanted one. And what was unique about him, I saw it on American Pickers. They found one that, you know, they bought it from the people. But when you open the door, the steering column and everything goes with it.
Mm-hmm.
The whole front of the car just goes. It's like, okay.
Have you seen the? There was, I can't remember what it's called, but there was a car that was built on the Isle of Man. It was one of these tiny little cars, like the little Messerschmitt car. It was like you know, barely fit one person in it, and I was like, you know, that'd just be a neat little toy to have. You know,
I actually found. I think they're out of business, but there was in Georgia a micro car museum. And it had hundreds of microcars.
Wow.
And I think they went out of business because I think American Pickers actually went there and bought a Messerschmitt. I think it was a Messerschmitt that they bought from them. But if you looked up microcar museum, they might have pictures of it. But they had all kinds of really cool little cars. It's like the Peel.
Yes.
Have you ever seen a Peel?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, at least pictures of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never seen one in person, but I've seen pictures. Yeah.
Well, they did it on what's the British show with the three guys?
Yeah, Top Gear.
Top Gear.
Yeah.
When they had the main guy driving one of those, and he's like 6'2".
Oh, it was like, that was the one he was driving in the elevator and through. Yes, I remember that. Yeah,
and that was a Peel.
That's that Isle of Man one, I think. The Peel.
Maybe I don't know. Well, it was in Britain. It was in England. Is where they drove. Yeah. Peel Trident, and there you go. Saying it was built on Isle of Man. So see, there you go.
Oh, and the bad news about Isle of Man, they have speed limits now. That was where a lot of race car team guys used to live, because outside the city there were no speed limits, so you could just do whatever. And that's why the TT is there. You know, they would do. But it was a few months ago they put speed limits on it, so it's like, no, not fun anymore.
Yeah. Well, they're tired of cleaning up bodies.
Yeah.
Let's see. When I was in the Navy, I bought a '79 Fiat Strada. Yeah, I've not heard that name. I've never heard Fiat, but not Strada.
My dad knew a guy that had a Yugo dealership here in Texas, in Fort Worth. When he shut it down, back whenever Yugo, I don't remember when it was, but when they shut it down, he ended up taking some of them home, and he just parked them out, in the carport and around the house. So I don't know whatever happened to him. And the last I heard, he was an older guy 25 years ago. So no telling whatever happened to those. But they just basically brand new cars, and he just parked them.
Well, there was from what I understand here, Noonan, Georgia, which is 20 miles from me or whatever. Supposedly, there's a guy who had a Dodge dealership, and he would bring home cars that didn't sell or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was like if I understand correctly, there's like a 74 Roadrunner that was sitting under a carport, and sitting next to it was like something else, early 70s Mopar that he just threw covers over them. And they've been sitting there for so long, the covers are worn off, but they're brand new cars that never sold.
There's that dealership somewhere, and I don't remember where it is, that still has a brand new, it's either a Grand National or a GNX, and it's sitting in the showroom. And has been since, and I can't remember where it was anymore, but it's just been sitting there.
All right. We'll see you, Gene. Yeah. We're running long. Let's see. Roger, I think Yugo bought the entire line from Fiat. They may have. You were given 3 Isettas, and they all have been stolen. Oh, man. That sucks. All right. Leonard's turning in, so we'll see you. Mac Franks, last new vehicle I bought was a 95 4x4 XLT Bronco. Yeah, I think the last new vehicle I bought was a 2002 GMC 2500 crew cab.
Well, we've got we bought a Sereno back in 2017, and just because we need a newer car to do to do whatever with. And the thing is, we've had it for 3 years old now, and it just hit 25,000 miles on it.
Oh, wow.
It just doesn't get driven a whole lot. That said, very happy with it.
What kind of car again?
What was that?
What kind of car?
The Sereno, the SUV.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's got was it 290 horsepower V6 in it? And it'll get up and go. I mean, but she wants the little, the sports car they have.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, she wants one of those. And I tell you, for a twin turbo, 6-cylinder with all-wheel drive, and that's a lot of car for 40-50 grand.
Yes, it is. The truck that I bought back in '95, there was a special deal going. No, not '95, 2002. We had an option through our company to get a discount, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so I bought a 2002 GMC 2500 HD, black crew cab, and it was I don't know if it was an HD, maybe it was. I think it was. But anyway, I traded in like a 2000 model GMC truck that I had gotten, and I had that crew cab truck. Literally, I put 800 miles on it. And then I said, I don't want this truck. I sold it. But the cool part about it was I made money on it. I did the trade-in thing. I got such a deal on everything with the discount, everything like that. I drove it for 800 miles. I think Roger actually was with me, and I think when I sold it, he gave me the ride, I believe. I delivered it to the guy, and he was like, I can't believe you're selling this truck. And I said, I don't want it. And I think I made, if I remember correctly, I made $4,000 on that truck. And I drove it for 800 miles.
A friend of mine has that kind of luck. When we went out with this truck, we went out to pick up a water pump for his 98 3/4 ton. Went out to get a water pump. We came back with a brand new truck at $17,000 after trade-in. And it was during that first time of the employee pricing, and the guy came out and he said the paperwork, and Jim told me, hey, it's going to be 17 grand. I said, sign the paper. sign it now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the better one is this is just the way it goes when him and I would go places. We went looking at boats. We came back with a Centurion. 6 months later, we realized he got such a good deal on it. He bought it for less new. He got a better deal on new than people were selling used ones for. So he traded that in, ended up gaining a couple grand on the trade in, and bought a Malibu.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's just one of those people.
Well, like I said, I happened to get the right timing on that truck because I think I bought it out the door, taxes and everything, like 22.
Wow.
And then I turned around and I sold it for like 26 and didn't blink. But yeah, Scott, Vortex 6.0, you can't beat it.
Yep.
That's a great engine.
That whole engine line is just good engine line.
Oh yeah. All the LS stuff.
I wish Ford had some modern engines that would have kept to the same size constraints like GM has, and would have been so much nicer, instead of having to do like an Ecotech or something like that without having to do major surgery.
Yeah, I don't understand the
you know what I meant, the Ford turbo one.
Yeah, the EcoBoost.
Yeah.
I mean, Chevy did such a fantastic job with that LS engine.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can't beat it.
But
I mean,
that many years of, it just iterations, and it just gets better over time.
Yeah.
But I think but it's at kind of the end. I don't think there's really much more for them to gain on that.
It's hard to say with Chevy.
But yeah,
it's true. They are very innovative when it comes to that stuff. But I don't know what their next generation will be.
No telling. It's just that when you go to the overhead cams, those heads are just massive units up there.
Right, and that's what makes it so difficult. Mm-hmm. So he bought his '79 F-150 for $600, and a year and a half later had complete restored. Good. I'll give you a bell for that. Why not?
I kind of want like a 40s or 50s truck to do. There's the movie, and I only watched it because I knew it had cars in it. Was it Calvin and Hobbes or something? The one with Jason Statham and the wrestler guy. Hobbs and Shaw. That's what it was.
Hobbs and Shaw. Yeah.
There was at the end of it, because they're in Hawaii. It looks like I think I know where they're at, because I think that was the Maui plant that closed. But they had a truck in the end of it. That was a rat rod truck with the old, for what year it was, the older cab, and with a makeshift wrecker bed on the back of it, and just that kind of style. I would like to do something like that. That's just a cool looking little truck to go drive around town in. Yeah,
I think for me, my tastes vary. It depends on where I'm at that day, because I love the 55 Chevy trucks with the big back window.
Mm-hmm.
I just love the way it looks. And then other days I like, the 48 Chevy truck with the 5 windows. And then some days I like the 36 Chevy truck with the oval front end on it.
And it's I think it's one of those. It's like you like all I'm the same way. And there's all these different things I like, and it's just going to be a matter of one of these days is like the right one shows up, the right project, and that's just what it's going to be. It's not that you're looking for it; it finds you, kind of thing.
Right, and that's what I'm hoping for. Because I have the 31 Model A that I love, but you can't just drive it every day. It's not going to work. I would love to have somebody stumble over to me a 31 pickup truck, and I'd rather they have already butchered it.
Yeah,
I won't butcher one in stock.
Bad.
I won't do anything to one in stock ever. I can't do that. But if it's already been chopped up and the roof's cut and all that stuff, I would have no problem.
I'll have to dig up. I've got the video of the friend of mine in Utah, his Model A truck, and we got it running down the street and back. If I find, I got to dig it up and I'll send it to you. I think you'd get a kick out of it. It was.
Well, what's funny you mentioned that. I think I have a video on this channel from several years ago. A friend of mine has a 29. It's like 2-ton truck or whatever that I helped him put it together here in this garage. that he actually learned to drive on that truck when he was a kid.
Oh, cool.
Okay. And it's from Kansas. And anyway, he had the engine rebuilt and we, had some stuff done to it, but he didn't have time to finish it. And so we dragged it over here. We put it together, got it running. And I have a video of him driving down the road in that truck. And it was the first time it had ever been driven since like 1940 or something.
Wow.
It's pretty, and it's on this channel. I know it's on here somewhere.
Okay. Yeah, I'll dig around for it. But he bought it in Fargo from somebody in Fargo that sells Model A trucks. And he bought it from there. Yeah. And that was a fun toy to get going again. It was fun.
Yeah. I'd go with a 40 Ford.
Yeah.
I mean, there's certain ones of each one that I like.
I'm not a brand loyalist. If I see something I like it. It doesn't matter who made it,
And again, I hate to revert back to what I've done on these, different things, but at the old body shop, we rebuilt a 36 Dodge. Okay. And this was a big truck. This was like a 2-ton truck that it came to us from Wyoming.
Mm-hmm.
And that truck was beat to death. I mean, it was rough. And so I love that truck. It turned out fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And so the shape of it, the shape of the grill, all that stuff, just spot on beautiful.
Mm.
But that was really one of my favorite things to build was that old Dodge.
Friend of mine, his uncle was big in scrap metal and he knew people everywhere out in the country. And we went out one place he was picking up stuff at, and then we went out, there was a big windmill. We walked up to the windmill, and on both sides of this windmill were sitting 2 Ford trucks, the old big, the huge monster things that you could put a 20-something foot bed on the back of and haul logs on it or whatever. There were 2 of those things there. And I was like, okay, those would make some cool projects, but I don't know how you get it out of there. Because they've been sitting there so long, there's trees up, you'd be cutting down a lot of trees to get to it. And, but it's like, man, that would make a cool project, but those are big trucks. I mean, those were big trucks. Even today they're big. Yeah.
I have to give Dave a bell.
Yes.
I agree.
Yes.
The 37 Studebaker truck is just amazing. I mean, it is, it's so streamlined and beautiful. But finding one is the hard part.
Studebaker just made some nice looking cars as a whole.
Yes, he did.
It really did.
I'm a big Studebaker fan. I've said it before.
Mm-hmm. And sadly, they tore down the Studebaker building in Detroit, which was a beautiful building. All the Art Deco buildings that were there. Oh, beautiful building.
Yep, Mac. Several of the cars had superchargers. They were way ahead of the curve on that stuff. I
remember going to the Auburn, Duesenberg, and Cord Museum in Auburn, Indiana. Great little museum. But, and they have some of those kind of, opened up and you can look under the hood. And they put a lot of work into those cars. They really did back then. And, but the front end was a tractor. The drivetrain was a tractor because it was front wheel drive.
Yeah.
And it was all tractor. It was like, that thing could last forever.
Yeah.
On a car. And they were fast.
Now, Scott, I have not heard about that. Studebaker started the sliding rear window. I never really thought about that, but I haven't. I'll give you a bell because I don't know for sure. So you could. I have not heard that. Studebaker Golden Hawk had the supercharged 289. Yep. And as a 289 Studebaker engine, not Ford. Don't get those confused. They also had a 259. It's hard to beat. Still very fond of the Chevy C10. 57 Golden Hawk. Just amazing cars. For me, if I'm going to have a Studebaker, I want it to be a 53 Commander with a pointed nose, and slow body line, or I like the stumpy 59 Lark.
And I told you about that one, and my dad and I saw it at Pate that one year, that was running, and it was running so smooth that we didn't know it was running. And, that's one of those cars that we both kick ourselves. Is like, we should have bought that car. It was just that nice. The price was, you couldn't ask for better on the price. It just pay the money and go, don't even question it. But it was Yeah, it is. Yeah, the Cord Museum is really cool
I need to
museum.
make it a point to get out there to see that.
Well, and it's actually in the Auburn, not the Auburn assembly plant, but it's in the design building.
Okay.
And it's it's not a big museum, but it's a 2 floors, and they've got these cool on both sides. They have these dead flat areas that they used for, measuring everything. And you talk about a large dead flat area for the time. It's impressive. And there's a DeLorean in there. I want to say there was a tank in there at one time, a Sherman as well. They had a good variety of other stuff in there. And I just remember got a kick out of going up to the door and they're not open, and got something to drink, came back, and then the lady said, "Oh yeah, we're open now." It's like, oh, so you don't have daylight savings time. And this older lady, she was just looking. It's like, no, our time doesn't change. She had to sit there and think about it for me. It's like, no, our time doesn't change. It's like, okay. Nice little town. Really nice little town, though.
Well, I'll have to make a point. There's several places I need to go.
Yeah.
I mean, the Ford Museum, that museum. Somebody mentioned one up in Pennsylvania that's off on Philadelphia.
The Ford Museum, it's not as good as it was years ago, but if you haven't been there, you won't know the difference. It's still a great museum. They took a lot of the stuff out and they kind of prettied it up and made displays and stuff. It used to be you could go in there and there was a section with bicycles, and they'd have 500 bicycles in one area. I mean, yeah, it was just full of stuff.
Yeah.
Of everything.
Oh yeah, Bob. Yeah, the Avante.
Yeah.
Not a Monte, Avante.
Yeah.
My dad has one. It's sitting up it's just sitting. Put it that way. It's an R1 version, so it has a performance engine. I think they all came with the R1, but they had 289 performance engine.
Mm-hmm.
R2 would have had a supercharger, and R3 was another upgrade. And there were very rare models of the R4 and even R5. They were pretty amazing. But yeah, the Avante. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that car unfortunately is sitting inside a building that has moisture around it, even though it won't hurt the body. The frame can have issues. And I'll just say there's a push-pull debate between my dad and my brother as to who needs to have that car. Kind of, and unfortunately, in all this time, it needs a new frame, in my opinion.
That's going to be tough.
Yeah, I've actually looked into trying to get the car, but I don't want to get in the middle of those two.
Yeah, it just don't want to get in that fight. Yeah.
So I'm not even.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see here. We're getting close to closing up. 777 Smitty. 12 years ago, missed a deal on all original 36 Ford, 6,000 before I get back with the cash. It was gone. Wow, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sliding rear windows. Yeah, I can see that. There's a rumor. Yeah, designed by aliens. You're right. There was a rumor that, and I can't say this is 100% true, but the rumor is that the 67 Chevy truck was actually the next year design for Studebaker. I've heard that rumor many times
before. Yeah.
Yeah.
You hear, yes.
And if you look at the design, if you look at a 66 Chevy truck, there's nothing comparable to the 67. It's just so different.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But if you look at
total body change, yeah.
If you look at the flow of the 66 Studebaker truck line, you can almost see some of that transition between those two. But it's always been a rumor. But
you never know. It could have been, designers, moving over to GM, or
right.
Who knows?
Well, here's a very odd thing to note as well. I've heard that, how was it? The small block Chevy engine was designed by Studebaker engineers, okay, who left Studebaker. That's what I've heard. Now, if you go and you buy a set of head gaskets for a Chevy small block, from my understanding, if I remember correctly, I remember looking at this, on the print, it'll say Studebaker.
Yep.
Okay. So you can take Chevy head gaskets and put them on a Studebaker. That's what I remember that when I was younger, and I
Yeah,
thought that was very odd.
that.
That
And then the question is which way were things going? Was it Studebaker designed it and GM was following, or was it that you don't
no, I
know?
think what happened was
The
the
engineers.
guys, because Studebaker had a V8 in 55, no, 53. Studebaker had their V8 engine in 53.
And then GM was
Okay.
55 for the first one, wasn't it?
GM 55 actually had their first V8 engine, and I
That
think
makes sense.
I think the engineers left Studebaker and went to GM and brought their process with them because
Put two and two together, that makes sense.
yeah. Let's see. Goodmunder points out Raymond Lowe. It was Lowy with a W. Designing Avanti. He hated grills for radiators on cars. Yeah. Yeah, is my brother much of a car guy? He is, in the fact that he fixes anything and everything. He's more your go-to garage mechanic. You know, he'll fix anything: tractors, trucks, cars. He's a grease mechanic. I mean, that's what his thing is. He's body work. No. But you need something mechanically fixed.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't go to anybody else. And he understands. You know, there's lots of. He's on a lot of the Studebaker forums, like on Facebook, where people ask a question and he's like, well, yeah, if you use this puller, you can get the axle out, or you can do this, or, you know, and they're like, how do you know that? He's, I've been working on them since I was 12.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah, I don't do I don't do Facebook, so.
Yeah,
it's not my thing.
Roger points out Studebaker and Chevy small block head gaskets do match.
And,
so
you know, as soon as you're talking about that, you know, I'm visualizing looking at all the, you know, like the old Felpro when it had all the print all the way across there, and it just that does sound familiar.
Yeah, I know it was on there. I remember seeing it.
Yeah, and it makes sense because the time frame works out right. You know, from 53 to 55 makes sense.
Yeah, steel shim head gaskets fit both. So.
And Studebaker had some great engineers at the time.
Let's see. Mac Franks, when my dad was working in Houston, he was building asphalt circle track stuff, and one day a GM 18-wheeler rolled up. Oh, okay. They tried to run everybody off.
Yeah, the big pregnant looking
around, and they rolled out a prototype 55 Chevy Corvette out to run laps on it. That's pretty cool. All right, Scott, we'll see you. Glad you were here. And it is past 3 hours, so I'm going to call it a night.
And I can't sit here anymore.
Yeah,
my dad's getting.
I'm trying to manage the time because I know that if I'm doing any more of these, I need to have time. Otherwise, it's going to charge me. You know, if I want to use this function. I got
a friend of mine that does some stuff. Let me ask him if he's got any other ideas on stuff for you to use. You know.
Yeah, it's all right. I mean, time runs out. What I'll do next week, or on the next live stream, which I'll do one Wednesday for the European guys. And I don't know if I'll use a format like this or not. I'll have to decide that when I get there, because I can use another program that just has just me talking. But anyway,
I just wonder if there's a way to put Discord through it or do some. Just got to be something. Got to be something. Yeah.
Well, I mean, and at some point I may have to just pay for it, because if I pay for it, I have other options. I have unlimited time. I lose the little logo that's up in the corner of your screen. It says powered by StreamYard. And there's also other things that I can add in, which I'm looking at, because I can actually run a video while I'm doing this.
Can you put pictures up? No, that I like.
There's a lot of things that I can do with the updated paid program. But anyway.
Yeah.
All right. So, thank you, Robert. And we'll catch up with you later. All right. So it's been 3 hours, and it's so nice. Oh, we got Michelle says, check out Zoom. Check into Zoom. Yeah, we've used Zoom for other programs, but I don't know if it would work for what I'm doing right here. Rob glad you were here. I didn't know you were here. Michelle, like I said, got some lurkers hiding out. So still have 26 viewers. That's great. If you would, by all means, put a thumbs up on this video, please. Help out the channel and help its growth. Tomorrow, there will be another video coming out on Jade, and it's about stripping and taking stuff apart and different things like that. So be looking for that. That'll come out at 1 o'clock. And I'll do another live stream on Wednesday, like I said, at 3 p.m. for the European peoples, and we'll see how that goes. But otherwise, I'm glad you were here. I look forward to doing this. I think it's fun to have this communication and have people getting involved and talking and sharing questions and answers and all that cool stuff. So this has been great, and we'll do it again. But until that next time, take care of yourselves, and we'll see you.